Alden,
Alderman Dwayne did not get an agenda?
No, I did get one, but it's not here.
Oh, okay.
Always,
I do have an extra one. Here you go.
thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, we'll call a meeting of the Finance Committee to order. We'll note that all members are present. Mr. Sladek, Mr. Nicholson, Mr. Dwayne, and myself. Could we have a motion to approve the
So
agenda?
moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any changes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes of the Finance
So moved.
meeting of February
Second.
2nd. Okay, it's been moved by Nicholson, seconded by Sladek to approve. Any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes of the Finance
So
Committee
moved.
meeting, second March 8th. And moved by Nicholson, seconded by Dwayne to approve. Any amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item number 5 is a request of the city assessor to cancel certain real and personal property taxes. Russ, you're here, and are there any questions about any of them? There's none, if we could have a
Move to approve.
moved by Dwayne, seconded by Sladek to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 6 is a request by myself on behalf of the Adventist Church congregation that the city consider waiving the 2016 property tax bill for 505 and 515 Clinton Street that the church acquired in March of 2016. There are folks from the church here, Skittle is here, and the church has acquired the old credit union building that's been empty for quite a while, and they're going to move their food pantry from St. Patrick's there to expand it into there, and also to house their program for helping with young kids on their, what do you call it, the
Love life.
the Love Life effort that's also by the 4 churches that are involved. This is a joint effort by the 4 parishes that are included. It's Annunciation, St. Joseph's, St. Jude, and St. Patrick. And they, I have to say, St. Joseph's gave up some revenue at their St. Joseph's parish site to try to be good neighbors to the people we're neighbor that did not want a cell tower. You know, we just came through a cell tower battle out on the east side, but they voluntarily chose not to do it because there was a lot of objections from the neighborhood, and you know, they gave up revenue. And of course, everything they do is for the betterment of all the people in that neighborhood and the folks that need the food pantry. So they did not finish the bookwork on it until March 1st, so they are lacking the tax exempt status that they would have normally had if they could have completed it before the end of the year. And of course, if they have to do that, they have to raise money to pay for that, of course it just takes away from the program. And they have approached to see if this committee would, and the council would see fit to waive that property tax bill for next year, or I should say absorb it. 40% of it would come back to the city anyway, but we'd have to cover the remaining part of the taxes for 2017 for our next year's budget. And there are people from the church here that can say it better than I have said it. So I would make a motion to, could I entertain a motion to open the floor?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Nicholson, seconded by Mr. Sladek to open the floor to hear from interested parties. So please come on forward.
Okay, I'm Carol Cattell. I'm the business administrator for the 4 parishes that are involved in this. For at least 20 years, St. Patrick's has operated a food pantry that serves the west side of Green Bay, people in need. St. Joseph's, for probably at least that long too, has had the Love Life program, and that again is for the people on the west side of Green Bay, mothers in need of baby items. We provide diapers, layettes, baby things for them. Both of these programs are currently located in the basement of rectories, especially the pantry. The building it's an old building. It's dangerous getting down there, going down the steps. It's crowded. And so we had this opportunity to purchase the old Fox Community Credit Union on Clinton Street, which we did March 1st. What we're hoping to do now is we're in the process of redesigning the inside. We want to do some remodeling to make it fit both programs, so we'll move both of them over there. And we have an architect currently working on that, and once we get the approval for the new plans, we'll do some renovations, and then we'll move our programs into there. Both programs, like I said, serve the needy on the west side of Green Bay. And it's open up not just to people involved in the church or associated with the church, it's anybody in need can come to those facilities and get help. We're looking at eventually expanding the services that we offer rather than just being where we hand out food, we hand out baby items. We want to bring in people that can do like budget counseling, maybe do some work with helping people get their GEDs and making it a bigger ministry than what we have now. Everything that both programs do is volunteers, totally. Any money that comes in goes directly into the program to buy items, food, diapers, whatever they need to give out. And so we're just, we bought the building on March 1st, and right away one of the first things we were going to do was look at getting it as tax exempt. And that's when I found out that it was supposed to be requested before the 1st of March. We didn't know that at the time, and we didn't have the building until March 1st. So whatever we would have to pay in taxes would have to come out of what we could offer to the people that come to our facilities, to our clients.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Mr. Sladek?
I have a question for staff on this. So tell me about this process for converting to a tax exempt status. Had they made the request before March 1st? Would this be a non-issue and be done?
Actually, the property needed to transfer prior to January 1st of 2016, and Rush Wand, our city assessor, would be able to speak to that item. So the actual purchase would have had to take place prior to January 1st of 2016 in order for this property to be
So it's
exempt.
standard practice that if a closing in which a tax exempt entity acquires a property takes place after January 1st, that tax exempt entity is liable for the taxes for that year.
Yes.
Do we have any precedent for doing this sort of thing, or we adjust that?
The only one that happened was last year, and that was for the sister who purchased a property that we paid their taxes last year. And I can't, the use, I'm not exactly sure of the use.
Sister Quinn, it was a hermitage. You remember there was
Okay, and we
Not-
were able to make that adjustment then,
Right.
right?
well, I believe, correct me if
We
I'm wrong,
paid- no,
Mrs.
excuse me.
Cattell, but you've applied for the tax exempt status already, but
Yes.
it can't go into effect until
1/1 of 17.
January 1st of next year. And of course, that means that they have to come up with the taxes for this year, even though everything is, charitable. And so, I believe in the purchase price of it, the first 2 months were covered and prorated in the taxes, but it's the last 10 months here that falls on the church and their efforts to do it. It was something they weren't planning to have as part of their budget. And as Ms. Cattell said, it's something that's comes right out of their programming. They feel kind of helpless about it. Mr. Swan, you have your...
Yeah, the issue is with churches and other types of exempt properties aren't listed specifically in the statutes. It has to be owned and used for that exempt purposes. So as you stated, they're gonna be remodeling, using work in it, so that's not gonna be used for exempt purposes probably for another few months or so down the road. So as far as that goes, it's gonna be maybe 6 months before it's actually up and running after the first year as an exempt entity. So as I look at all the other exempt entities that by the during the year, I guess I'm looking at where is the cutoff date? And our cutoff date is always the first of the year. You know, you can make exceptions, but once you start making exceptions, then you're gonna have to look at where are you gonna cut that off. The law is very specific as to when I have to cut it off, and that's marked, or January 1st of each year, how the property exists. They didn't own it as of the first year, it was owned by a taxable entity, so therefore the property is taxable. They can apply, but they're gonna have to reapply in 2017 by March 1st in order to be asking for an exemption. So this process is gonna have to go through this coming year. Whatever you do today won't impact that. They'll still have to apply for 2017 by March 1st. The application I received in my office.
By January 1st, you mean?
By March 1st, I'm sorry. By March 1st of 2017, they'll have to apply for 2017. The one that I received in my office.
Didn't you
this
mean
year-
January 1st?
No, they have to, the application for exemption is by March 1st. They have to be in my office by March 1st.
And that's for 1/1 of 2016, Melissa, or is that 1/1 of 2017?
For the year that they're looking for. The one that they filed this year wouldn't apply because they didn't own it. They weren't the registered owner as of the first of the year, so it doesn't apply to them. They aren't, I mean, they couldn't apply for it. So, and they were late on the application anyway, so it doesn't, it's not a valid application. So what I'm saying is that they're gonna have to reapply for exemption for next year and have it in my office by the 1st of March of 2017, and that'd be a 2017 application.
Well, that's all, so you're saying even for 2017, it wouldn't be timely?
No, it's, every year stands on its own, so the one that they sent me was the 2016 application. It was late and not appropriate because they didn't own the property. So I'm saying that after the first of the year next year, they'll be the owner of it, and they'll have to submit information to me with the application that proves that they're an exempt entity that uses the property for the intended purpose of their exemption. I mean, they're pretty specific as to what has to be followed.
Well, there isn't any doubt that they're exempt as a church, are they?
No, but the churches, they have property that it has to be used, for example. There's church property that I do assess mainly because if they're using it for storage, if they're not actively using it, there's some parsonages that aren't being used for the minister that's supposed to be living there, they have their own property, we assess those. So it doesn't necessarily mean, they aren't specifically mentioned in the statute, if the church owns it, it's exempt. It has to be proven that they're using it for exempt purposes.
Well, let's get down to the brass tacks of it, though. What was the, you know, it hasn't been, the building's been empty for some time.
Yes.
And has the taxes, has the assessment been lowered on it? What is the present assessment?
352,100, it can be found on page 6B of your packet.
But, so they didn't, when it was out of use, they didn't come in and ask for a
No, this
reduction?
is the first communication I've had regarding this property in recent years.
So, the credit union that owned it, they're still in operation? They're in operation in another facility, is that?
Yeah, there's someplace else, but they abandoned this property, but they're still maintaining it so that it's able to be sold. But they're not actively
So
using it.
they could have come in and, based on the fact that it wasn't generating any income, could have asked that this be lowered.
Right, if their asking price was significantly less than what our assessment was, yes, they could ask for a review at any time.
What was the purchase price of that?
140,000.
Okay, well, that's quite a bit less than of the market value, considered market value, which was probably incorrect. But,
Well, that's, I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm not sure how long the property is on the market and whether or not they have buyers for it. Sometimes when they're selling to an exempt organization, they'll cut them a break on the price just because of the good work that they do.
well, it's been on the market for quite some time.
I'm not aware of that.
It's within my district, and
Okay.
I drive by it every single day of my life.
I haven't heard from them as far as getting an adjustment on the property, so.
Well, the long and the short of it is that they're asking for us to absorb those costs for this year. I'm sure they're going to have all their work done and they'll be in operation before the first of next year. But they still have to worry about this year's taxes when they come due. Now, we have some time to make a decision on this yet because the tax bills don't even come out till beginning of December. But they're asking us to forgive those taxes and pick them up. The cost of it right now is out of line anyway. The taxes are much higher than they should be. But evidently the credit union is making so much money they don't care. I guess I gotta take that statement back a little bit, but maybe they're unaware that, you know, the market value has been reduced, and it's reflected in the fact that it was purchased by the church. Did the church give them any certificate that they can have a tax write-off because they sold it to you cheaper? Was that part of the
I
consideration?
don't know if that was part of it or not. But I know they did give us a break on the price. They did come down, I think about 40,000 from what we originally were going to be paying.
So they were asking about 185,000, and they sold it to you for 144,
140.
140.
Yep.
So it was, they were asking about 180, and so it was assessed at more than double that. So it was on the market for about half of what it was, so I guess the church had approached me to see if there was some way the council could help with this to help their operation, because it puts a burden on their budget of what they're trying to do. Okay, Mr. Sladek, you have the floor.
Just one follow-up question. Do I understand right that the amount of money involved here is $8,147? Is that correct?
Yes, that would be the amount of taxes. Should the properties remain assessed as of January 1st of 2016, total value between the two lots, I had just given you one value, is $369,700 is the total of both those properties on the assessed value.
So does the
Yeah, there's
8,000...
two parcels there, Tom.
Right,
The-
there's a
The
small-
building was separate from the parking lot.
Okay.
It was in two parcels, but together, that's what it amounted to.
So does the $8,147 represent what the city's component of the
No,
tax bill would be?
it is the entire tax bill.
So the proposal here is that the city forego its share of the taxes and pay
Right.
the county taxes and NWTC taxes and so forth.
So this would be the entire tax bill, and this will be the taxes that we collected for 1/1/15. If there's any changes in the mill rate, once we approve our budget at the end of this year, that new value would be the value of the taxes that the city would have to pay on behalf of the church.
I see. I don't have any other questions.
Roughly 40% of this bill is the city portion of it. They also did receive prorated taxes for 2 months of it, so we're looking for 5/6 of the bill.
That would be a question that I would have for the church, because your statement of your closing would have accounted for that. So that is certainly something that they would at least pay that portion.
I think they'd be willing to do that. It's,
So the amount of money that we're actually being asked to commit here is 5/6 of this amount? Is that correct?
Of this amount.
Okay.
And of that amount, 40% is just the city's portion of it. The rest is the county and the school district.
But the proposal is that we would pay that, so
Yes.
we would pay the full 5/6 of that amount.
Very similar to what we did last year for Sister Quinn.
Okay? It's fine, my questions are answered.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, Russ had said that the assessed value, if they come back and say the assessed value was from 300 some to 140 and they agree, wouldn't that lower it? Or no?
I can have one of
What's
my- I
the
can
what's the
have my
cutoff
commercial-
date for the, for assessment adjustments?
Up till probably the end of April, so I can have one of my commercial people.
Why don't we do that?
Take a look at it. If we can get into the building, I can have someone go look through it and see, you know, what's the reason for the difference in what we have versus what was purchased for.
Well,
And that could-
you know,
that could
it would be
impact this number.
if it was decided that it had a value of 180,000, which was the original purchase price, that's half of
Mhm.
what it was, what the taxes are on it right now. So if that was adjusted, it would come down in half to start.
That's right.
So all we'd be asking for is probably a number 5/6 of the 8,100, half of 8,147. That's assuming that they would lower the assessment for this year equal to what the original purchase price was without the deduction.
I'm not averse to taking this kind of step, but it would be nice to know exactly what we're committing to. So if we could have the assessor look at the building,
Come back in 2
and
weeks.
if we can adjust it, and then we know what the actual amount is that's needed here,
Okay?
I think that would be perfect.
Why don't we make a motion to that effect? Do you think you can handle that by our next meeting, Russ?
Sure.
Okay.
Make
Yeah,
a
I just
motion
need
to
to
hold
touch
this
the
up
several
in-
points.
for 2 weeks for the assessor to go and check.
To bring the updated information.
Yes.
Hmm?
On what,
Second
and
that.
then we'll estimate what the taxes would be after that.
Hmm?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to hold this until the assessor's office can give a final appraisal, so we see what the total amount might be that is being asked for. Okay, any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Zima, if I may, Carol, what would be the address and the phone number that I can use for the minutes as well as Russ contacting you on it?
The address would be 1087 Kellogg Street,
And the phone number.
496
Thank you.
2160.
Great, we'll pass it on to the assessor.
Okay,
This
and
is still takes
probably
about
ask
time
for
to
me.
see.
Okay, great, thank you.
What do we want to do?
Thank you. Alma.
Okay, item number 7 is request of Alderman Weary to live stream city council meetings. This is about the third or fourth time we've held it. Is he had another
Unfortunately,
meeting?
Alderman Weary sent me an email today, and he said he had another commitment that he wasn't able to make it. The pricing, for the most part, hasn't changed. We would be still sharing the cost with Brown County. We continue to explore perhaps some more effective or efficient live streaming systems. So whatever your desire is, we can continue to research those and bring them back at the next meeting or.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to further the research, have staff further research and bring us back an update next meeting.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Item number 8 is request by Alderman Moore for a report on the next 5 callable bonds with balance due, payment in full, and estimated interest savings by paying each in full.
So in your packet, on page 8B, will be the next 5 issues, and actually, at that point, when I finished up the memo, I only had the 3 issues. Issue number 1 and 2 are state trust funds, and I did plan on bringing this forward as part of our regular bonding to make it more efficient. And there would be 2 potentials there. It would be either going with state trust fund, depending on what type or what we borrow for, or going out to the open market. So they did run what the savings would be, and that's about $317,000 with today's interest rate environment. And it'd be roughly the same at that first state trust fund, that's at 3.5. Issue number 3, forward 5.3, it would actually cost the city money to call that debt and replace it with debt today because we do have that call feature. We can't actually just refinance it like you do a mortgage. And then the other 2 issues I did receive from Robert Berry that cost the city even more money, just shy of $1.4 million to refinance that debt because the call features that's on the city's debt when we issued initially.
Okay, Mr. Moore, you're here.
Yeah, the reason I brought these forward was with the stadium tax money that we have coming back, I'd like to try to find some kind of a mix toward debt payoff, debt reduction, and economic impact. I wanted to see what we may have had available here for some debts that we owe that we could pay off early and have some savings on top of the, the money itself. So
And
that was my
those,
whole reason for bringing that forward before the finance committee here.
and those two issues that I spoke of with the state trust fund,
Right.
one was for Northland and the other one was for
You have to
Schreiber.
go.
So those projects are paying for themselves.
Right.
All right.
So thank you.
So what is your, you want to explain your request, or have you changed your mind about it, or?
Well, if calling the bonds is actually going to cost the city money, then I would just take this request, receive it, place it on file, but I would like to look into the state trust on the others, for
Question.
the 300,000 possible savings.
If I may also offer up, just continue to pursue refinancing the state trust fund with either state trust, refinancing with the state trust fund or open market at the city's next bonding opportunity.
So that's something you do all the time.
I know, but I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to.
And we appreciate that.
You do take over for a minute for me.
Anybody else?
Yes, Dawn, can you give me take me through the chart here again?
Sure.
If I'm reading this right, it says issues 1 and 2.
Yep, so on the backside, 8C, I didn't label it, but the first issue that I speak of is the $2,845,904 state trust fund that we took out for Schreiber. And then the second one right next to it, before refinancing, is a $2.5 million loan that we have outstanding for Hotel Northland. Those combined, the amount is $5,345,000 is what the city would be refinancing. We would pay off the 2016 debt and issue new debt. We'll just use January 1st of 2016, and that savings, gross savings, is $402,000. When they do a present value calculation, that's about $316,000 savings on that first issue. And-
Okay, so if we called those bonds,
Mhm.
it would cost us 5.3 million.
Nope, if we call those bonds, and by the way, you can refinance state trust fund at any time, it
Mhm.
doesn't have a call feature on there. We would be borrowing close to $5,310,000 to refinance that $5,345,000 worth of debt. So that's pretty much 1-to-1, and it's like turning over your mortgage and refinancing your mortgage at any given time. So that would be a nice
I'm trying
savings.
to understand the represented savings of 317,000.
Okay, because, okay, in that second to final column, you'll see what the total new debt service is. So for instance, there
You're
would
on
be.
which page are you referencing now?
8C, it's sideways,
Okay.
right after my memo,
Mhm.
and it's that second to last column. So in 2016, there wouldn't be any savings because we've already made that debt service payment. Your savings would come in year 2017, your first year would be about $19,000 in interest savings. 2018, $23,000 in interest savings, and so on, for a gross savings of the 402.
I see.
And then they do a net present value on it, and that'd be about $317,000 savings.
Okay. So, to Mr. Moore's point, there is a potential here
Right.
to use the sales tax money to pay down this borrowing and reap a savings of present value $319,000, actually $402,000 spread out over the years.
Right. But this debt that was taken out are for projects that, TIF projects, that are currently paying for themselves, so they are reimbursing the city both principal and interest for the borrowings. So if there's any, I think where you want to try to capitalize is on city-issued debt for city-issued projects, right? Because if these projects are paying for themselves and there's no levy impact of these projects on our levy, I would think you'd want to go for projects that are levy-supported to use the sales tax money, right?
Well, I guess I'd have to ask Mr. Moore if that was your intention to consider this only as it applies to general obligation debt, or all debt?
I guess I wanted to get the discussion started and kind of get some of the background here, because look, when all those charts come out, we start reading them to determine what's being reimbursed by a TIF and what's not.
Right.
It's hard
You
for me
don't see,
to
you don't see that.
understand what is what on there, so.
So that would just be my take. I would think that the council would be interested in reducing the city levy, so perhaps maybe an opportunity, maybe when we bring our borrowing forward for 2016, is pick off some of those projects using the stadium money, and then therefore the city wouldn't even have to go out and borrow money for those projects. That may be an opportunity. And then you'd use it on city levy projects and not necessarily TIF projects.
So is it your point of view that taking the action of paying down the 5.3 million on issues 1 and 2 really is not a benefit to the taxpayers?
I don't think it is, because those projects through TIF increment is paying for those projects. So they are reimbursing us, the levy is reduced by these, by the debt service on each of these pieces of debt that we have outstanding.
But if we pay down the debt on the TIF earlier,
The
doesn't
TIF
that benefit the taxpayer because it closes the TIF earlier and we
This TIF
bring the incremental revenue from that TIF into the general fund?
It would be a long-term strategy, and yes, I agree with you, and it's your choice. This TIF most likely will be open for probably in the 2030s, and I would think that you may be looking for something more immediate use of that, or a benefit of more immediate than that long-term, but you're obviously looking much longer term.
The TIF revenue is currently reducing the levy,
Yes.
so using the money again.
Mhm.
So it could close the TIF early, but.
But it'll still be up to 2030.
Okay.
Well, how much total debt is there in that TIF right now? This is
I'm
it?
sorry, I don't have that information with me. But I certainly can send it to you tomorrow. I don't have that particular document with me. Because one of these projects, actually both of these projects are TIF 13.
I may be speaking out of turn, but I guess if you wanted to use the Packer tax money to reduce debt, you could apply it toward next year's bond issue, I guess, and pay it directly. It'd have the same long-term effect. Sometimes it's playing games with yourself, because then it leaves more money open to do other things, I guess. You really save something in the end or not. Sometimes it's kind of a little shell game, okay, unless your council is really committed to controlling those costs. But at the same time, we have basic services and that to take care of. So as you know, Mr. Moore, Improvement Services Committee has identified a lot of expense that could be coming our way in the future. So I don't know if you want to approach that idea, maybe it's the time when we discuss it, you maybe want to bring that forward. Doesn't look like it would do much to take it out of the existing TIF debt at this point in time.
Right. Yeah, I'd be fine with just receiving, placing on file, and we'll keep looking. We don't have to spend the money today.
I think we made a motion, didn't
Not yet.
we? Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
It's been moved by Dwayne, seconded by Sladek to receive and place on file. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item number 9 is a request by Alderman Tom D. Wayne on behalf of Scott Van Edestein to consider funding up to 30 utility belts for the Police Explorer program to be used for training competition. Tom?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I am going to open up the floor for interested parties. Scott is here, Police Chief is here, and this is a program that he has brought to us before, and we have on our desk what they're looking for and the cost. And there's 30 belts involved. Total cost would be $7,636.50. And with saying that, I have a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Maybe we could have the chief give a description of what the program is about.
Good evening, Andrew Smith here from the police department. I also have Lieutenant Andrew Opperman, who kind of runs our Explorer program over at the police department. He's been doing that for the past couple of years. I think he could probably explain a little bit more. Explorer program is obviously a program for our youth. It's an opportunity for the police to work with the youth to kind of guide them along. It's also a good feeder pool for us for future police recruiting. So it's a great opportunity to get involved with the kids, work with them for a number of years, and then hopefully those kids will come on to become police officers, ideally here, but other than that, somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, the Explorer program, we've had it before. This is something that we restarted the program probably about the summer of 14. So basically right now we're self-funded. All the money that the kids get for participating in any events that they would go to, say a competition like last year we did at Fox Valley Tech, they would have to pay out of any fundraising that they would make. So in the summer, for example, the kids would go down to Country Thunder, Country USA, and Rock USA, and they park cars, long days for about 12 hours, and then they get a certain percentage of that money from those festivals. They put that money away, and then they would use it for things like this. Right now, most of it's being used for participation in events and their uniform, which right now consists of a police-style shirt, but that it's gray, has our patch on the side, but it says Explorers on it, and then they are asked to pay for out of their pocket any black pants, if they already have black pants, to match the uniform, black shoes, black belts, stuff like that. Right now, the cost here is set for 30 belts. We have approximately 18 members of the Explorer program. I don't know that 30 belts is really necessary. Where we could use the money somewhere else. I think we're probably looking at more 12 belts would be appropriate for the amount of people participating in the program who come on a regular basis. That would also give us a couple extra for maybe some new members in the future, which are trying to vamp up recruiting. So, but there is still money that in other costs as far as participation in events. Obviously, police belts are expensive, but there are different ways we could look at things too. We could maybe look at the cheaper option. So, I mean, we'd be willing to take any money given to the program, but the kids, even just to buy shirts right now, you know, they're not cheap. They cost us for one of these uniform shirts approximately in the $50 range. So they're probably gonna be paying a similar price for each one of those shirts, and then we ask them to pay for pants and stuff, and we usually send them to like the military surplus store where they can get some black BDU style pants for, you know, $20, $30.
So moving forward-
Do they need anything besides this? Is this basically, I mean, you say they supply the rest of the uniform themselves?
Correct. So that's also something that, you know, we could look at maybe a uniform upgrade to make them more formal. We could look at using the money for, this is actually a scout program. So the Bay Lakes Council has some say into what protocol, because the Explorers program doesn't just cover police officers. Explorers can be in different genres of work. So, but for police explorers, the scouts have some say, so they fill out the application process through scouts. Obviously, they do a background check with us, and then they become a scout. But anytime we have an event or a training that we would like to take them to, we have to pay for that out of our coffers. So any money that we would have, obviously we would budget and control to pay for equipment for them, competitions, things of that such.
Tom, you had a question?
I would really like to see this get going, but I would really like to see if 2 weeks wouldn't be a problem with this. I would like to really see how you would like, what you would like to, what the cost, what you would really like. Put in there the costume or the uniform and
I
the
agree.
total package that you would want to make it work,
I agree.
not
Right.
just half.
Yeah, right now, we're going through all the, when officers resign or get fired from the police department, they turn in their equipment. We're going through the equipment that we have to see if there's anything there we can salvage and use give to the Explorer program. So I know we have at least a couple belts from some officers who were recently relieved. Maybe we could use those as a starting point.
Yeah, because I see a lot of programs that you have that you hear about that your officers are doing, you know, and a lot of it's on their own time.
Yes, sir.
And I'd really like to see some of these programs be brought forward, and this is one of them. This was brought to us before, but somehow it stalled under Chief Molitor. And I want to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to bring this back in 2 weeks, and bring back and identify what you as a police department, you head of this program, would really like to see. I know we have already cut it in half, what you asked for, in 12 units, it's just under 3,100. But if we do it right, it might, you know, it's not gonna be that significant of a difference, but I'd like to see it done right.
Sure, I agree, and I think that's personally, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for, so.
When is the next competition?
We were scheduled to, we were gonna go to a competition in March, but with our numbers kind of changing right now and getting the recruiting numbers out there, we've had a couple kids leave because they get older, they go to college and stuff, they're still on the list, but they are too busy to come. Our numbers dwindled, so we weren't able to attend the March competition in Milwaukee, and right now we just haven't seen enough interest to participate in the Fox Valley one. Plus, with new kids joining, which we have had a couple of our new kids, we don't have the time to train them properly before they go to a competition in 3 weeks. So we're kind of going to hold off this year. Now, these competitions pop up. Obviously, the next scheduled one would be the 2017 Fox Valley Tech or the
So this will
2017.
give you a perfect opportunity
March.
to get it all set.
Right, and we're hoping to build our numbers, so that would play into these numbers too, expanding this juvenile program. So.
Mr. Wisniewski?
Yeah, he's raising.
I couldn't see you through here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I sent some hand signals to Alderman Nicholson. Along with this, I think it's a worthy cause and a good program. I would like to also see them come back with what they propose on to actually keep trying to fund money yourselves. In other words, don't just come with an ask, come with what you're doing. And it sounds like you have a good program in place, and you're kind of hedging on where you want your money. So I'm interested in seeing how much you really need and what you guys can continue to do, because you said you had some good volunteers. And I think it's good that if the kids work that way also, to help fundraise.
And just to kind of give you an overall what we do, every 2
Yeah.
weeks the kids meet, okay? And most of their training is taken care of by us, because obviously we have the assets that the police department can cover. So they get to see a lot of the police tactics stuff. They go through evidence training. They may get to see some of our DAT or defense arrested tactics training. They get to see traffic stops. This is all stuff that we supply to do with them. So a lot of that money's no worries. I mean, we take care of that as far as the police department. We also push on these kids to, like he said, for recruitment, the chief did, that I pushed a lot of these kids to, we are short on CSIs right now. So these kids who are of age, who are participating in college, we want to see them join the CSI program. So like the chief said, someday down the road, they become our recruitment. We've kind of groomed them to be Green Bay police officers.
What age you start the kids at, so I get an idea?
This program can start from the ages of 14, and they can be in the
Okay.
program until they're 20. They don't have to
Right.
have a term limit or anything.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I really believe this is something that's got to get back on track, but we got to do it right. And so I don't know if someone seconded my motion, but
I'll second it.
Right, you guys are still hold for 2 weeks for more information to
total cost.
complete what the cost would be to do the program as we want to do it.
Sir?
Is, we didn't open the floor. Mr. Van Edison, did you want to address this?
They've pretty much covered what I was gonna,
Okay, we don't need to open the floor then.
Okay, motion to return to regular order, because we did open the floor.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moving second to return to regular order of business. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The motion before us is to hold for 2 weeks to get a complete cost to do the program and to consider it at that time. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you then. You gotta go.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as I stated, my father had emergency surgery. I wanted to stay as long as possible, but I'm hoping he's out by now. Now he's okay. He's 92, and we just don't know because he's only working on 50% of his heart, and I just gotta
Okay,
go up there.
we'll certainly excuse you, or
Yeah,
thank you for
hopefully
staying as long
so.
as you did.
Yeah,
First, our best wishes go to your dad.
thanks.
Item number 10 is request by Alderman Stoyer to look into inviting the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, Fort Myer, Virginia, to Green Bay on August 7th, 2016, to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the landing of American troops in the area. Okay, Mr. Stoyer.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I know as alders, we have a lot of issues where we react. This is one of these that I'm looking to be proactive. So, in a nutshell, the group that we're looking to have come into town on August 7th, 2016, which will be the 200th anniversary to the day that American troops landed in Green Bay to take control of this region after the British were in this area, will be 200 years to the day. And this group, the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, is also called the Old Guard. They're based out of Fort Myer, Virginia. They are the oldest active duty infantry unit in the U.S. Army, serving since 1784. They are the Army's official ceremonial unit and escort to the President. They provide security for Washington, D.C., and they guard the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They are active duty and they have served in all of our wartime conflicts. The HPC, myself and a few others, we have contacted Major Timothy Meadors, M-E-A-D-O-R-S, and Major Meadors, first of all, is keeping August 7th open. They're very intrigued by this. This is part of their history. The regiment that landed here in 1816 is the same regiment that is now existing in Washington, or in Virginia. Major Meadors indicated that the cost to be incurred by the City of Green Bay and its partners will not be known until we submit the formal request to them. They are keeping August 7th open, which is also the Sunday of the Tall Ships Festival. So we do have a form that we're going to fill out. They're holding the date for us, but we have to come up with thoughts and ideas as far as costs, and I'll go through a few of those things. The cost may be zero if the event is open and free to the public, and we're exploring that as well. He also stated that we could have a number of groups. They are ceremonial. I would suggest anybody to Google this and look up the Old Guard. They have videos of what they perform and what they do. He said that we could have number one, we could have the Fife and Drum Corps, which are 12 to 14 soldiers dressed in Revolutionary War uniforms. And these folks are musically inclined. They would be a band. Number two would be a color team, four people that are dressed in War of 1812 uniforms. And that would be more the time period that we're looking at, in a sense, if we consider just having the color guard. Number three, the Army drill team are 4 soldiers in current uniforms who twirl rifles and do all sorts of activity with fixed bayonets. They are the only infantry group that are allowed to have fixed bayonets in parades, etc. The total number of soldiers for this, including the fife and drum, the color team, and the drill team, would be 22 soldiers. We could either have 1, 2, 3, we could ask for that. The cost for a day would be $400 for airfare for each, $80 for accommodations, $90 for meals, for a total of $570 per soldier, which would come out to $12,540 overall. That's if there were costs incurred either by the city, the county, or other partners that would buy into this. The Historic Preservation Commission, of which I'm the chair, we will get the application in. So a couple of things here. I was wondering, do we partner with the county, the Packers, the Chamber of Commerce on something like this? Other partners. There's also a possible event for this Old Guard on August 13th and 14th at Heritage Hill State Park. They don't want it, because of Fort Howard, they have a number of buildings at Heritage Hill. they don't want to conflict or compete with the Tall Ships Festival. So they're looking for the week after to possibly have a bivouac or a number of events with these soldiers. So that would be another possible partner, but then of course that would be, they'd have to wait around for an entire week. I think the soldiers are intrigued about being in Green Bay. I think they would like, possibly the Visitor and Convention Bureau could set up some tours to Lambeau Field or number of other events around the area. So, in conclusion, I'm just saying this, I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the city of Green Bay to come forward and celebrate the fact that, you know, we are one of the oldest communities in the Midwest. I've also contacted Dave Grigno, who is the chair of the Menominee Tribe. Back in 1816, Chief Toma, who is the chief for the Menominee Tribe, greeted the soldiers along with some of his members. He was considered very well by not only the native population, but also the local fur traders as well. With that trip back in 1816, Augustin Grigno was the local fur trader who went up to Mackinac and came back with this troop of soldiers that came into Green Bay, and his job was to make peace between the locals who had British sympathies and the new Americans that were coming in. So I could go on and on about this, but I basically think this would be a great event. The fact that the tall ships are already there could tie in very well. I'm meeting with PMI tomorrow at 10 o'clock to talk about the possibility of that being part of the event. And my suggestion would be to have one of the ships possibly go out into the lower bay with these soldiers on it, and then come on into Green Bay and land at a spot that would work. Preferably closer to where they landed originally. So,
Have
there you go.
you worked in the theater a long time?
Have I? That's
Sound like
one of my
Sound
dreams.
like a pretty good director.
Well, I can get into it if I want.
Mr. Stoyer, you said that if it's open to the public, that they would come for free. Does that mean that this cost wouldn't even be here at all then?
Well, right, I mentioned that initially, and I think we're pursuing that angle because they are a military unit, and, you know, they have events and all sorts of exercises.
Well, no, it sounds like a no-brainer to me.
That would be a no-brainer, and I understand that. And I've already talked to Andy Rosendahl in the mayor's office about it. He wants me to keep them apprised as well, and I'm thinking that that's the route we'd like to go, but
Would the full command come then, the 22?
that's a possibility. I think there's a couple of options here. We could look at these soldiers that are coming into town. There might be local citizens that would put them up. There's a number of partnering possibilities that we could do with this group of soldiers. But I have talked to Major Metters, and they're doing research on their end, and they're fully aware that that they were the regiment that came out here in 1816. So I think they're very intrigued by this.
Remember that, Jerry, or not?
Well, I vaguely remember that. I think I was just getting my driver's license right about that.
Yeah, I was only about 4 years old at the time.
Well
It
put.
seems, I guess I'm a little bit confused though. If we can invite them here, of course it would be a public event. I mean, we'd want as many people to see it as possible.
Well, I think one of the concerns is that we would conflict with the Tall Ships Festival, which is an event that you have to pay for. So I'm reaching out to the committee and also to other partners, private and public, if you will, in the community to
Well, does
say,
that
yes, we
necessarily
want.
have to conflict?
What's
I mean,
that?
Just because we have a tall chips here,
Well, no, but I'm just saying that if you want to be part of the Tall Ships Festival, there is a cost to get in. And I'm just saying
I
that,
mean, to walk around Light Park over there,
I think,
it's
well,
only if you go on the ship, isn't it?
if you go on the ships or if you go behind the ropes, there is a cost to do that. You can stay further back without paying, but I'm not sure how far you can get in. Maybe there's somebody here that could talk to that effect. I've been to the festival a few times, but the tall ships, but I haven't actually paid to get onto the ship. Well, one time I did. And there was some cost, it was like 25, 30 bucks. So a lot of folks aren't gonna be doing that, but a lot will. So I think the fact that it would be, we're leaning toward the zero option, of course, and I just brought up these other options because for the day, it would cost, to have all 3 units, it would be $12,540.
Well, I mean, Light Park is basically the location of Fort Howard, just.
Pretty close.
Within a
Pretty close.
couple hundred feet or so. I think that would be a great
Well,
attraction to people.
There will be ships that are already moored along that whole stretch, so that could be difficult to disembark, if you will, because of that festival. And I'm gonna be meeting with PMI tomorrow.
Well, if we
talking
didn't have
about
them come in on the ships.
What's that?
The zero option, you wouldn't have them participate with the ships then.
Not necessarily. I would like to, that's what I want to talk to PMI tomorrow about. So I know there's a few
So
loose
you think
threads
they
here.
might come up with some money? When do you need to know this?
The sooner the better. I mean, I realize that I don't have everything here. I gave you numbers. I gave you some options. I guess the big thing I'm looking for is support from the city on this. The fact that it's also Brown County's history. I'm not sure if this is something that we could say, we could do a joint effort with the county on this as well. It's also a United States event. It's a national event. And I'd also like to incorporate, like I said, the Menominee tribe, if they're willing to do that. You know, there's always that question of, well, lives changed when the Americans came. So I'm trying to be sensitive to that.
The very least we'd do would have them come here and do a program.
A program.
Dedicating the 200th anniversary of.
And it would be to the day.
It
It would be actually to the day, which was pretty, on a Sunday. It's on a Sunday.
I think we should do that. And I would make a motion that we approve it and invite them to come as a part of a public event. And if you decide you want to do something different, then you come back to us to.
Right, I
and
mean,
look for the money.
I'll keep you abreast of all of this, but like I said, right now, this is what we have. And I think they're waiting to hear from us, and I guess one of the
Don't we have
reasons.
some event money? I mean, what did we
Well-
put in the budget this year? Didn't you cut it back to 70,000 or
Really
something?
cut- yeah,
I think
this-
it's 50,000 in the 2016 budget for
Yeah,
celebrations.
I mean, we could possibly look at that as well, as an option.
So if we had the full participation with the tall ships, that's, assuming they would go along with that, right?
That's a possibility. I
The
know
most it
that
would cost is 12,540, did you say?
for the day, if we had all 3 groups.
But was it 12,540, did you say?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
12,540. Like I said, if you had the color team of only 4 people, they would just be a color guard. There would be no music. It would just disembark. There's 4 soldiers from the War of 1812, which is really the time period that.
Well, I think the
I think
band
it would-
and
it would
everything
be-
is what makes it worthwhile, just to have that.
Well, the fife and drum
I don't think it would be
is,
very thrilling to people.
they're world renowned, the Fife and Drum Corps. They're quite famous, so.
So we can put that in the advertisement?
Well, sure, why not?
Okay.
Pump it up.
Well, what does the committee think about it? I mean, maybe we could approve the concept and a potential of up to $12,440.
540.
I mean,
12,000.
what's the rest of the committee's feeling about which level of service would you like to see?
For the committee?
Do you have an opinion about it, Mr. Sladek and Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, part of the, I think that one thing that gives me a little bit of a problem is Alderman Steuer did not have a specific request for us. So
Okay,
if you're
well-
looking for authorization for $12,000,
I'm not.
okay?
I guess,
So what do you
we
want
just
from
we
this
just got these
committee
numbers
tonight?
today, by the way.
Pardon
We
me?
just got these numbers today, so there
Okay.
was really no way to get it to the committee. So, I guess I think what I'm looking for right now is support from the city and also the possibility of, I don't know if we should reach out to the county or other partners as well, if there are costs to be incurred. If it's 0, then we don't have to worry about that, I
Yeah,
guess.
the HPC can do it, you don't even have to talk to us.
What's that?
If it's zero, the HPC can do it, you don't even have to talk to us. And I think,
All right.
I like what you're trying to do, and I want you to go ahead and do it. But I don't think you're at the point yet where we have something specific to act on.
I think we'd have something with a letter and
But I think
everything,
we should
intent
give
for
him-
our next meeting.
I think we should give you some direction about
Well,
what
that's
form
fine.
of it we'd like. I'd up for the full show of the,
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. See, if we had direction, at least then we could say, okay, here's our application, this is what we're looking for.
would they put on more than one show?
Well, I don't know. Sure. Well, I don't know.
Well, what
I
I'm
don't know.
saying is that, you know, it might be a big,
Andy, you're right.
big draw, and maybe you could have
Well,
one
I
at,
wish you had a little more specifics.
one
more.
at 9 o'clock in
We
the
can
morning.
give you
one at
our
noon,
blessing
one
and
at
then
5
come
o'clock in the
back.
afternoon or something.
When do we
Well,
do that?
like I said, we got this information today.
Right.
I'd say go put the meat on the bones and let's come back and talk about it.
Right.
And we have a celebrations budget that we vote at budget time, and I think that'd be an appropriate place to fund it from.
Mhm.
All right,
I agree.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Really, to essentially hold it.
What's that?
I said, do you
Well,
want
say that I'm hungry.
do you want the item to be meat on the bones?
How does that sound?
Yes.
Call me right back.
We'll just take it.
Alderman Nenning mentioned something too, and I had thought about it, that we wanted to contact the governor and also our US senators as well.
Mhm.
on this.
You don't want to spoil the event, do you?
Well, whatever. We'll just get others involved.
We don't need the state here. This
Yeah,
is
we-
Brown
we get
County,
those.
Green Bay. God, the second you have those politicians in there, they ruin the whole thing. But I'm going to just declare a 5-minute break, because we don't have a quorum right now, but we will shortly.
You want me to sit up or not?
Sure, if you want.
It's up to you. Temporary, or is somebody, he's just leaving for a minute?
We have to have somebody that's firm of mind up here.
Oh, you think so?
If you think you can do that,
Oh, I'm fine.
all right, come on up.
How should I walk?
He walks,
Talks?
talks, crawls on his belly like a reptile.
I have. Oh, is it back? You want me to leave? Do you want me to sit in for this?
So, did we vote on it already? No.
You didn't actually complete your vote.
I didn't hear a specific motion to vote on.
Okay, the motion before us is to hold this to our next meeting and come back with firm figures to.
Did you,
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll second that.
Alderman Zima, did you also want to give him direction as far as following through and filling out that application? Because that's what Alderman Stoyer suggested that
takes.
he would be able to do. is-
Well, I think we
Yes.
want him to proceed, and I think we want him to proceed with the complete show that would include music. And to come back to us if he needs money that we would take out of the celebration fund. Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item number 11 is referred from Common Council held on March 15, discussion and action on a letter of intent from Broadway Events LLC for an outdoor event center at 100 West Mason Street.
Included in your packet was the presentation that they made on this proposal to the redevelopment authority. They have since added some additional detail that was requested at the common council last week. So this is the revised with that, some additional information. A lot of it is the same information, but just additional details. And I Sorry. Actually, I'll just give away my copy too, for now.
And I think we have gentlemen here from Big Top Baseball Incorporated, LLC. I'm always nervous about LLCs. But maybe there could be some kind of insurance plan attached to it, but they're here, and I think that the members of our committee have not received the first presentation. And I think we'd all like to have the owners walk through it with us. And so we have a motion to open the floor.
So moved.
Well, hang on, who's on the committee now?
Do you want,
Oh, actually, we have a quorum without Sherry.
do you want me to leave? I can leave.
No, you can stay. You don't have to
You
leave
can
the
sit
room.
there.
We like you.
Do you want me to just, I don't? if you
I
want
guess
to-
just don't participate.
Okay, all right,
That's fine.
That's fine.
You can stay here. Talk with us. We have a
Move to
motion.
open the floor.
Okay, is there a second? Second motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Representatives from Big Top Baseball are here.
Of course, we want to welcome you here, and are anxious to hear all the details that you can give us about your project, because you want to bring something to Green Bay that may be very beneficial to not only yourselves, but the city of Green Bay. So I guess be as forthright as you can and give us the lowdown of what it is you want to do and how you plan on guaranteeing that it won't fall back on the taxpayers' lap for any more than you say it will.
Thank you, Chairman Zivit, for having us. Thank you, all these members of the Finance Committee. My name is Connor Coley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Big Top Baseball. We own and operate 4 teams and 1 event center across the state of Wisconsin. We own teams in Madison, Kenosha, Green Bay, and Wisconsin Rapids. And I'm one of the 3 owners of the Green Bay Bullfrogs. We appreciate you taking a few minutes. I know at council last week there were some good questions asked.
So the Bullfrogs are completely separate then? You just happen to be involved in both?
We're a separate entity. Our parent entity is Big Top Baseball. It's our branding entity, our parent for all 4 companies, all 4 baseball teams, and then also the event center that we own and operate, or excuse me, the event center we operate in Madison. I'm the Chief Operating Officer
So
of the company.
Bullfrogs are a separate entity?
We're a separate entity. Big Top Baseball is
They're
the
an
branding
LLC by
parent.
themselves, and they're
Correct.
also part of your LLC? You have a contract with them, is that the idea, the Big Top does?
Big Top is the branding entity. As we started as one team, if I can give you a little background, and my goal today is just to tell you more about our background. I know the council desired for more information, and I hope I can answer as much as I can today, and if I need to go back and bring additional information, I'm more than happy to do that. The hope is just to continue dialogue on this proposal. We started 16 years ago in Madison as the Madison Mallards. We've been in operation there. We've grown the franchise from just 1,000 fans per game back in 2001 to now we average over 6,000 fans a game. Out of 180 summer collegiate teams in the country, we lead the nation in attendance. We've been able to have great success there in Madison. 6 years ago, we started a second franchise, the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters. In a small town in Wisconsin Rapids, just 18,000 people in that town. We average over 1,400 fans a game. We've consistently ranked in the top half of attendance in the Northwoods League for the last 6 years. The Northwoods League is the largest summer collegiate league in the country with 18 teams in Canada, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan. 2 years ago, we started the team in Kenosha. The Kenosha Kingfish was an expansion franchise. In just 2 years, we've taken that team from nothing to being third in the nation in attendance. We average 2,400 fans a game in a stadium that seats just 2,100. At the same time, we purchased the Green Bay Bullfrogs. They were run by a previous owner, and the league had taken over the franchise. We purchased that franchise 2 years ago. At that time, that's when we established Big Top Baseball as a branding entity to describe and cover all 4 of our teams. So that's how Big Top Baseball has come about. In 2 years, with the ownership of the Bullfrogs, we've been able to increase attendance 55%. Prior to us taking over at Joanny Stadium, the previous ownership group did not sell out a single game. Our first year of operation, we sold out 7 of our 34 games, and last year we sold out 17 of those 34 games. To us, a sellout is standing room only, where you've sold every seat in the house. So we've been able to show great progress there. We are packing in Joanny Stadium. Since we took over 2 years ago, we've desired a long-term facility improvement plan to really meet the potential we think this market has for baseball. While Joanne's has been a nice home for us, we've invested over $100,000 in our first two years of our money into the facility. Joanne's does rank in the lower tier of stadiums in the Northwoods League. And it doesn't quite have the amenities or frankly the seating and space to grow as our operation continues to grow. So our business, 4 teams throughout the state, 4 baseball teams, and then we also do events. We own and operate, not own. It's a city facility in Madison, but we operate a city stadium in Madison. It's a football and soccer stadium, totally separate from our baseball operations. And at that facility, we do community events, youth athletics, concerts, community festivals, and we've programmed that facility heavily from March all the way into November. We're more than just...
So you operate 2 facilities in Madison?
Yes, we have a baseball facility, and then we also have an events facility. What we're proposing is to essentially take what's 2 facilities into 1. So what we're doing at the baseball team in Madison, what we're doing at the events facility, we're proposing to do that in 1 facility here in Green Bay. Now, I know this has been kind of presented as the Bullfrog Stadium. The reality of what we're proposing is the Bullfrogs would just play on 36 of the 150 days we think we'll program the facility. So the Bullfrogs are just a small portion of what would potentially happen at this facility. Our background, we're an event company. Now, we started in baseball, but we've got a full-service food and beverage company that's done large off-site caterings for 14 parties. We did steak and lobster for a group of 14,000 people last year. We have a large food and beverage operation that we think will be well-suited to run this facility. We operate, run, and handle all functions of the City of Madison's fireworks show. That show was 70,000 people a year ago, and we ran all aspects of that event. We've also done a variety of concerts, community festivals, and charitable run walks. So we're an events company, and what we're proposing for this facility is truly an event center, not just a baseball stadium. As we kind of get into the potential programming for the facility, we talk about 36 Northwoods League games annually. That would be the Bullfrogs. We would own and operate either summer collegiate or minor league soccer team that we would bring to Green Bay. There's not currently soccer of that level in Northeast Wisconsin, and we would like to bring it here to Green Bay to the new facility. Sir, question?
What is that called?
What would the league be called? We're looking at 3 potential leagues. There's one, we're bringing 1 league to Madison in 2017. We'd be looking to bring either minor league or summer collegiate soccer to Green Bay in 2018.
And where do you recruit people to participate in that?
So it'd be very similar to what we have with the Bullfrogs and very similar to what the Gamblers have. It's the best college players from across the country come and play in the summer months. They play between May and late July, and they would play for Green Bay's team. So we'd recruit college players from across the country to come and play here during the summer months.
Okay.
So in addition to baseball and soccer, we'd be looking to do 4 to 6 large-scale concerts. At the venue that we have in Madison, we're doing 3 concerts of up to 7,500 people this year, so we do have experience doing that. We see a great deal of youth baseball and youth programming. We've talked in depth with Green Bay Area Public Schools, and they'd be looking to use this both in the spring months and the fall months. We've talked particularly about potentially moving or potentially having the field serve as West High School's home field for both football and soccer. So we talk about 150 days of programming. We know that's from March through November, but we're confident that between our events, community events, youth programming, we're proposing a turf field that can be used from sunup to sundown. It'll be a lighted field. We think the demand will potentially even exceed that 150 days based on what we've done in other markets and based on demand for that type of facility. I should stress, and I do talk about this later on, but this is not something that we would own. This is a city facility. We would propose that we lease and operate the facility for 20 years, and we'll get into the financials on that in a minute, but the city would own this facility. This is an asset the city would have in perpetuity. In addition to the program we talked about, in a lot of leases like this, the city would have a certain number of days that they would be able to use the facility for whatever events they may want to hold. We would operate the facility day to day, so the city would not incur any kind of staff cost to operate the facility. Just a quick breakdown of the programming, but from March to May, the focus would be local high schools and youth sports programming. June to August, that would be bullfrogs, soccer, bullfrogs and soccer, I should say, and then September to October, it would get back into heavy high school programming. Over the course of the year, from March through November, we think we can be doing community festivals. We think we'd attract anywhere from 6 to 12 nonprofit, local charity run walks to the facility annually. Having a facility like this is really appealing as opposed to doing an event like that in an open field. And then also, June 1 through September, we'd be looking to do a handful of concerts. And we'll also look at doing some winter programming in the month of February. The next couple of pages show you some renderings.
If we could
Yes.
just stop there for a second, I was wondering, you just alluded to one of the questions I had, are there winter activities that could be promoted there? Could you put an ice rink or something,
They're,
or local hockey, or open to the public for skating?
ice rink for public skating, hockey, potentially, spectator hockey events, that's one possibility. Two, it could be used as kind of a sledding type winter area. If we did bring in a snowmaker, we are going to be doing that in our facility in Madison next year, bringing in snow and building a sledding hill for kids, in addition to an ice rink, and potentially some spectator events. So we do plan to do an annual winter festival during the month of February. That would have a variety of programming, primarily family friendly.
And the revenues would be in form of either entrances, or you say that the soccer league, would that be like the Bullfrogs and similar to that?
Correct, yeah, I mean, for the soccer league, we would sell tickets, sell advertising partnerships. That's how we would generate revenue for the facility.
I couldn't remember how many days you said that would be.
Soccer league would be 10 home games a year. And the Bullfrogs are 36 home games a year.
So just 10.
10 home games a year, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and proceed.
As you can see, a couple renderings of the facility. We're proposing 2,500 fixed seats, an additional 500 in berm seating, and an additional 1,000 seats in the hospitality areas along the concourse. The facility would be proposed to be artificial turf, so we can do all the programming that we've talked about doing. You can see that the soccer field is overlaid over the baseball field, so it's a facility that would accommodate both soccer and baseball. The proposal right now calls for a kind of boardwalk to go around the exterior of the facility. So that would be open to the public at all times. And the facility would have, the appropriate concessions and restrooms to both accommodate, a regular baseball crowd in the 3,500 range, but also larger events where we would invite folks down into the field, potentially like a concert.
What is the dimension of the entire field here?
I'd have to get you the exact dimension on it. I believe the right field fence is right around 370 feet. But I'd have to get you I'd want to get you the exact dimension. Baseball fields, there's not a fixed dimension or a fixed footprint. They all vary one by one. So I'd want to get back to you on the exact proposed dimension.
I'm just looking at your floor here, I'm just trying to picture how you would transform from baseball field to soccer field.
So if you see the overlay of the soccer field on
You see
the,
the soccer goal here?
Right here. This is
and you can see the
Where's the other end?
if I may,
we do the opposite.
can I,
Well, I mean,
would you mind if I just,
because I mean, you build up ball diamonds,
correct,
pictures, mounds and all
so the
that.
mound is replaceable, and it's removable, and there's a fitting that goes over the mound to keep it flat and safe. This happens in a variety of baseball stadiums. Kokomo, Indiana, Reno, Nevada, Tulsa. This is a very common trend right now where you do both baseball and soccer. Louisville, Kentucky. And you can see the goal down at one end and the other end, and this is a regulation size soccer field. So it's a common trend right now with these artificial surfaces. It's easy to switch in and switch out. You can even play two of the same type of game in the same day.
Okay.
Any other questions on the layout of the facility?
Can I go back to
Yeah, of
an
course.
earlier topic? Can you tell me a little bit more about Big Top Baseball?
Yes.
I mean, you're here proposing to enter into a partnership with the city for 20 years.
Mhm.
And usually, you know, we do a fair amount of vetting of who our partners are going to be.
Yeah.
Who owns Big Top Baseball?
So we have three partners in that. It's Steve Schmidt, myself, and Vern Stedman.
Okay.
Steve Schmidt started the Mallards 16 years ago. Vern was Steve's first employee, and I started working for the Mallards in 2003. Vern and I run the businesses, all 5 entities, day to day. It's our full-time business, and as we've kind of progressed and as we've grown, Vern and I have ownership in the company now.
So Big Top is a three-person partnership.
Correct.
And would we be contracting with Big Top, or are you going to make a separate entity to contract for this project?
The contract for the lease would be with a separate entity that would be those same 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the Bullfrogs would then lease from that entity. If that makes, not to get into the, convoluted legal part of it, but there would be you would contract with a separate entity would be the exact same 3 people.
Okay.
There would not be any other partners involved.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And we've been, everything I talk about of what's happened here, that's, in Big Top is the same 3 partners. And so we've been fortunate to have quite a bit of experience operating these teams and operating facilities and running events throughout the state. And we think, I have a proven track record. You talk about vetting us, we'd encourage you to reach out to the mayors, park superintendents, or even the alders in our districts and the three other markets where we operate. We're very fortunate to have strong public-private partnerships with those local communities. We've rebuilt 2 stadiums in the last 6 years, one in Madison and one in Kenosha, and those were all a result of a public-private partnership.
And could you go into the details about that private-public relationship?
Yes, I will do my best off the top of my head to get the exact details. I may have to send you an email back with the exact specifics. But we started in Madison in 2001. It was an old facility, a little larger than what you have at Joanne's, but frankly not in any better condition at the time when we took over. After growing attendance to 6,000 fans a game, we were bursting at the seams. We formed a public-private partnership with the City of Madison, where the City of Madison, well, actually, the bleachers at the time were a safety issue. So the City of Madison budgeted $800,000 to replace all the seating in the facility, and we committed $500,000 as part of our lease agreement. In addition to, you talk, Alder Slottick, you talk about a 20-year agreement. At that time, we signed, which I think was a 13-year agreement with the City of Madison. In Kenosha, we had no existing relationship with the City of Kenosha. They had an old facility that was built in 1926. That facility was about to be condemned. We came to them with a proposal to fix up the facility, and the city contributed $750,000 up front. We contributed a $500,000 to invest in the facility and signed a 11-year lease. And that facility quickly went from almost being condemned to being one of the better facilities in the state, somewhere where we're drawing just shy of 2,500 fans a night. And we are currently working on additional improvements to that facility to accommodate the number of fans that we're currently bringing in there. Those were both existing facilities that have kind of been brought back together. I think you'll see the proposal there on the money that was put in, a little more, both those to start a little more on the city side than our side. Now, if we get into, I guess we can talk funding, and can I address one other question that's come up frequently? Or, I'm sorry, Alder, do you have any other questions?
I don't have any others, no, not
Sorry.
now.
One other question that's come up frequently is parking. And all of our stadiums are in densely urban areas. We've just started to do an initial survey of the parking. We know that parking is tight at the proposed facility, but we are confident that we will be able to develop a parking plan. And actually, I will pass, if I can, pass around. I've got some pictures of this kind of shows you a little bit, these files are the same, but shows you some of our other operations in other areas. And it also shows kind of some parking maps that we've developed. That first picture is a concert. It shows some of the events that we're currently doing. Some are kind of, packed stadiums. Parking, as proposed, there's 148, and go ahead and ask questions at any time. It may not make a ton of sense, but there's a sample parking map in there. Our facility in Madison is 8 blocks from the state capitol in a very dense area, 35,000 residents within 1 square mile of that facility. The facility does not have a single parking spot that is attached to it. We worked with local businesses. We identified 20 local businesses and secured 20 lots where we staffed those lots. We had signage, we communicated in advance, and we hosted a concert there last fall, 7,500 people, sold out show, and there was not a single parking issue because we communicated well, we worked with local businesses to secure their lots, clean their lots, staff and insure their lots, and we're experienced at developing these comprehensive parking plans.
Is there a parking fee?
There's not, and we would not propose one at this facility either.
So you're saying all the parking here would be provided as part of the stadium, or what agreements should have with?
Correct, yeah.
Other business.
We do not charge for parking at any of our facilities. Part of what has allowed us to have success is we try and keep, we try and do 2 things. 1, affordable, and 2, really family focused. And we don't think that, we should be gouging people for parking, so our hope would be to continue to have free parking at all of our
Just talking about the
facilities.
hot dogs.
Keep that affordable, Alder Zima. I think $2.50 is where we try and be for hot dogs. To get back to parking, currently as proposed, 148 spots in the actual facility lot. We've identified another 696 off-street spots in the area that we would look to secure partnerships to access those lots. We coexist very well with businesses. Businesses need the parking during the day, we need the parking during the night. We develop arrangements with these local businesses that we clean their lots, we staff them, and we provide insurance so they limit themselves from liability of anybody parking there when they're not around. So we talk about 148 stalls as proposed, 696 off-street, and there's another 265 on-street spots in that area. If you look at kind of a standard ratio, what we've used in our other stadiums is 1 stall for every 5 guests, or even a 1 stall for every 4 guests. If we do present this parking, you would easily accommodate, that 4,000 person capacity we're talking about for baseball and soccer events. As we get into larger special events, we would work with the local businesses on Broadway to develop shuttles. I know quite frequently, on Broadway, the farmers market will draw 7,000 people in a lot of streets. A lot of the street parking is not accessible, and they're able to get everybody parked down there safely and securely to that event.
So how much of that is walk-on? You say 4 people per parking stall. I remember when I did a study in connection with our arena, what the average, how many tickets were sold per car park?
Yeah, I mean,
I think I was looking at Madison at that time, and it was like, I think they said when there was children events, the tickets sold per car park was in the neighborhood of, I think, 2.6 or so. Now, numbers are a little dated.
Yeah.
They're from about probably 25 years ago. But I wouldn't think it would change too much, and when it was just an adult event, it was closer to like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. So I'm just wondering why you think parking should be expanded to, for every 4 tickets that you go into the place, you have 1 parking stall. It sounds like you're gonna come up short from at least my experience.
well, so 4-to-1 is the current zoning of the city of Green Bay. When we developed the parking plan in Kenosha, it was 5-to-1 was the number that the city zoning required us to go off of.
Is that there's a lot of walk-on people in that aren't parking?
Walk up, and I think bikes. Bike parking would be the 2 other ways that the folks would get there. On average, what we see in our facilities is between 3.2 and 3.5 people per car. That's kind of, another number that we look at. Because primarily family events, family-oriented
Mr.
events.
Story, did you have a question?
Yeah, just, what about bus traffic, Connor? Would that be included as well, buses?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think a lot of times the zoning number calls for a number higher than like a 3.2. So I think a lot of times there's other ways for people to get to the facility. Like I mentioned, we also work with local businesses to do, local taverns to do shuttles to and from the events.
What was your price per ticket last year, and is it gonna change under a new facility?
I think, we're not there yet. I think our average ticket price is across all the markets, is in the $8 to $11 range. I think we'd stay in there. A lot of it depends on when the facility, I hate to make a commitment now and that the facility opens 2-3 years down the road. Over time, prices do increase, but we would not be looking for a significant increase.
What do the bullfrogs get, for instance, right now? I don't think it's that
$9
high.
and $10 is where we're at.
Per person, is that adults or children?
We do one price across the board. I believe we're in the $9 range is where you're at. Some of our other markets were more like 11 and 12.
What was your average this year for attendance?
A little over 1,400 fans per night.
So your revenues then just from entrances is somewhere in the $12,000-$13,000 a day on average.
We do a lot of kind of community type stuff with reading programs where students at the local schools can, if they.
Well, I know the time I went, I think it paid $2.
Well, it's quite possible there was a special
Couple years ago.
or something going on. Like I said, we got to keep the product affordable if we're going to have success.
Well, for a family event, so it'd be, a family of 4 would be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 to $40 just to get in.
Correct. Quite frequently, we do have like a family 4-pack or family options that include food and drink or coupons to a local establishment. We're very aggressive from a marketing standpoint to make sure that people are seeing the value in what we offer. At the same time, one thing we changed from the previous regime is that we do not kind of give free tickets out in the community or just drastically reduce the price of the tickets. We feel it's important that we maintain the integrity of the value of our ticket, and we've done that over the last 2 years.
If you want to stay in business.
What's that?
If you want to stay in business.
And we've been able to do that and increase attendance 55% in 2 years.
So your average this past year is around 1,400,
Yes, sir.
and what are you anticipating?
We're at 14-17. We don't project often, but what I can tell you is that we don't want to overbuild the stadium, and so we propose to build the stadium at 2,500 fixed seats, and our hope that we could quite frequently be in that range. In Kenosha,
There's a potential for, you said there's a potential for 3,500 people,
correct.
but seats would just be,
2,500 fixed seats is what we're
There'd be-
proposing.
what, festival seating then, or whatever they call it?
There'd be 500 in a berm down the left field line as the facility is currently proposed, like a grass seating hill, which is normally a more affordable ticket. You talk about an affordable ticket, it's normally a $6 to $7 ticket. And then we would have some hospitality areas with food and beverage throughout the facility that would get you in that 3,500 person range.
And then would you be open to having to come before the city each year for prices of concessions and entrances,
That's-
entrance fees?
That's not something we've ever done before in any of our other markets. I've never heard of that being done. I'm not sure. I think if there was a reasonable approval process, I think we'd be open to having that discussion, but it's not something that we've ever done. I think
But your
I
goal
think
is to,
other
your goal
ones,
is
I
to
think
get
you'll
up on
find.
average 2,500 people at a game, is that what you're?
Like I said, we don't want to overbuild the stadium. Our hope would be that we can be in that range. We're doing that in a similar size market in Kenosha, a market that seats, or a stadium that seats just 2,100. We're pulling in just shy of 2,500 a night. So.
So they're on these berms or whatever.
Once we fill up the stadium, then we're going into party areas and hospitality areas and a hill down the right field line in that facility.
Yeah, now, So you're, being repetitious here, but you average 1,400, you're hoping to get to 2,500.
That would be the hope over time, yes, sir. And keep in mind, this facility is not just a baseball facility. It'll be used for concerts, high school events, soccer. The seating would be used for a variety of things, not just for baseball. We can't stress heavily enough that this is an event center for the city to be used for a variety of things over the course of a year.
Are the players of Lake the Bullfrogs, are they paid?
No, they're not. They're the best college players from across the country. And they come from all over the country and come play in the summer months. They live with local host families. And it's really kind of their summer internship. We have pro scouts at every game. It's the last step before they get drafted and go on to play professional baseball.
Okay, would you typically talk about what is a typical amount of concession revenue per ticket sold?
That's a pretty complex formula because a lot of our tickets include your food and beverage with it. One thing we've had a great deal of success with is selling tickets in advance that include food and beverage. You can, if you go to our website, you can see that on any given night, at least half of the fans in attendance will pre-purchase their food and beverage. So,
Tell us how that works.
for example, we have a 7-game pack. Gets you tickets to 7 of our best games. Gets you all you can eat for an hour. You're guaranteed to get the giveaway.
All you can eat for an hour?
All you can eat for an
So you
hour.
put a buffet out there?
You bet. Put a buffet out there and all you can eat for an hour. And you're guaranteed to get the giveaway, whether it's a bobblehead or whatever the giveaway may be. It doesn't matter if you show up when the gates open or in the 8th inning, you're guaranteed to get that giveaway. And all in, that ticket with the food, the drink, everything that we offer, I believe breaks out to right around $12.50 per night. So we do a ton of packaging that include food and beverage to
So
get
it's
people to leave.
about $85 for a 7-game package per person.
I'll be honest with you, I have 4 markets and I sometimes get the numbers confused, but I think it's right in that range, yes, sir.
And they get to eat all they want for
An hour.
7 to 8 or whatever it is, and then after that they purchase.
If they're still hungry, they can purchase something after that, but they get all they can eat. We don't limit them. They get all they can
Well,
eat
we
from
can
an
throw
hour.
it all in together now. You don't operate these things like off the seat of your pants. What is your total revenue per ticket sold and on concessions?
I believe it's in the, oh man, put me in a spot here.
Wait,
I believe,
yeah, you can come back with it later.
I'd be more than happy to come back, but I believe it's in the 350. Trying to think, around between 3 and 350 a person. But I'd like to follow up to you with an email or a correspondence telling you exactly what that is.
You know why I'm driving it? No. I mean, when we leased the arena in the past, there used to be, a portion of the concessions would come back to the county in that particular case. The first amount, up to a certain level,
Yeah.
they got nothing, the county got nothing, then the next, whatever, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, it was a certain percent. What I'm driving at, is there any way that the city could participate beyond the lease? And that was why I was talking about parking earlier. If you charge for parking, then is there a portion that could be an incentive for the city?
Yeah, I mean, maybe can we, if we want to get to the funding page real quick, I mean,
Well,
we-
let's save that for later.
okay, but, well, I'll just be honest with you, we feel that we've put our best foot forward as far as what we can offer and what we can provide. $1 million up front, and then another $4 million over the term of the lease. In addition to that, we've committed $25,000 annually to local neighborhood groups. So, we are bringing,
Okay,
this
back there,
lease,
will you say that whole
this,
thing over again?
$1 million up front. Our commitment. We feel that we are, we've put our best foot forward as far as what we can offer. And $1 million up front is what we're offering, in addition to $4 million over the term of a 20-year lease. In addition to that, we've offered $25,000 annually to go to local neighborhood groups. So we feel that,
Where did you come up with that idea?
in our early discussions, that's something that came up in a lot of the listening sessions. There's been a lot of concern for neighborhood causes, And we want this to be a community facility. So we, one thing that came up was the idea of us donating that money to local neighborhood groups. Because we do see this as a community facility. This isn't just our facility, this is something that we think can draw 200,000 people
We
in the course of the
basically
year.
negotiated this with the mayor then?
This is something that
It
was
was
was brought up,
department.
pardon me?
You negotiated this with the mayor and his staff,
That,
this proposal?
this is what we propose to the city. So the dollar amounts, we thought in our best interest, the best way to potentially move this deal forward would be to come forward with what we thought we could offer. And we made an offer at the time, it was $1 million up front, which it still is, and then a lease payment on top of that. Amidst, in those discussions, the idea of doing something for the neighborhoods came up, and we agreed to that.
You're evading my question, I feel, but I guess, you were here at our meeting here earlier, and you heard we had 2 or 3 things come up that, one was, Mr. Storer is bringing forward the idea of bringing a fife and bugle corps, what is it, fife and drum corps.
First landing.
Et cetera. We have things that come up in the course of a year. I mean, would you be amenable to that amount of money would be put into a contingency fund for, special needs in the city?
Our intent is it goes to the neighborhoods in some way or form. I mean, we're open to that. And whether it's a different neighborhood every year over the course of the 20-year lease, or 5 neighborhoods participate every given year, we are open to that. Our commitment is $25,000 to go back to the community. That's our commitment, and we're open.
I'm
to
saying,
that.
with that 25,000, could that be into a contingency fund to be used at the city's discretion for special needs that we might have? Like, we had a couple things come up here tonight that we gotta wonder where the money's gonna come from.
Yeah, if they're community-related items, I think that'd be just fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Stoyer, your question?
Connor, at council, we talked about a few things, and you mentioned that that projects like this in the past have, according to you, you've said 75-25.
It's kind of the industry standard.
So public input or monies would be 75%, private would be 25%. You were saying with this facility, that it would be more like 55-45 for Green Bay?
Those weren't my exact words, but
Roughly?
if you look at the funding, yeah, I mean, we're bringing $5 million to the table, and we're asking for a $4 million, request from the city of Green Bay. Keep in mind, it's a facility that the city would own. It's not something we would own. And I think one thing that we haven't really talked about in our proposal, but we're confident that this is a project that can spur economic development in that area. I talked about it being a common trend currently for these ball diamonds to be used both for baseball and soccer. Another current common trend is that you're seeing a downtown stadium being built, and then apartments and condos coming right around the outfield of that facility, because it's an intriguing place where people want to live. So I know that's for other folks to handle, but we think that this could be a catalyst for that part of town to spur some development. Yes, sir.
Well, then with the other communities like Kenosha, Wisconsin Rapids, and what was the other one? Madison. What kind of growth have you seen over time with?
Just in 2 years, we've seen the
Economic
district.
growth.
Yeah, the district that we're in, and I can, if you'd like me to come back with specific testimonials from local business owners and from the city, I'm more than happy to do that. But in Kenosha, in just 2 years, we've seen the road that we're on, which is a high-traffic, high-visibility road. There's more businesses opening up, and it's becoming more of a destination for places to relocate. In Madison, in our events facility, we're right in the core of kind of an urban renewal. Now, we didn't start that, but we're right in the heart of that, and I think we're something that plays well into a lot of the development that's coming around us. This is, while those I think are good stories, those were kind of rejuvenation projects of a facility that already had some stuff around it. I think this could have a much greater economic impact, because it's kind of a blank slate over in this part of town, and this could be the impetus that really gets some other projects moving around it. And if you, in the letter of intent, there is a commitment from another party to come along as part of this development.
Go ahead.
Okay, we got one more. There's a group that I've been a part of called Strike a Chord. We're trying to be a nonprofit, but also working with music events and such. And one of the dreams that we have is to have a facility on the river, something like the Leach Auditorium in Oshkosh, something like Wausau might have, Duluth has. There's a number of communities that have a permanent facility. Now, with this being built here, that would probably preempt any of that. So I guess the concern I had was to see if this facility, this event facility, would be able to garner that type of following for concerts and such, including maybe possibly a permanent stage.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, there's not a plan for a permanent stage in the facility, but you can see the facility is built in a way that gives us flexibility to do concerts on the low end of 500 to 1,000 people, or on the high end up to maybe 8,000 people. The facility is built in a way that's an event center, not just a sporting facility. So yes, I think to answer your question, I think that need or desire to have a downtown concert venue, outdoor concert venue, I think this facility could fill that need. We've got experience producing and promoting events like that, and we definitely hope to attract events like that if this was to go through.
Yeah, I'm just going back to money a little bit here. You say your goal is 2,500 people a game. If that were to come true, the average ticket was $10. So you said,
That would be the price of the ticket.
yeah.
I'd have to get back to you on what we,
You don't have to
what
get
ends
back
up
to me
being.
on anything, really.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
just talking here.
All right.
I'm just trying to figure out what the numbers are. I take 2,500 times $10, that's 25,000 a game revenue. But
Yeah.
maybe it'd be a little less than that if it was,
Mhm.
the average was $8 or $9
Mhm.
or whatever it is. I take that times 36 games, that comes up to about $900,000 a year. I mean, you guys have a business plan, right?
Yes, sir.
You know what the total revenue that you see coming in?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do have a business plan.
And
That's
what is that?
We're a private business, sir, and that's not something that, at this time, we can share with you. But if you would like to,
Well,
if
we
you
can do
would
that
like to
closed
sit.
session sometime.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy. I mean, we can give you an idea. I know there's a concern about us signing a 20-year agreement and being able to fund that. I think one thing I should mention, which I don't think has been mentioned yet, the Northwoods League, largest summer collegiate league in the country, amazingly financially stable. The Northwoods League would be a co-signer on any lease we would sign. So the city would have a backstop if there were to be any issue with our group. And both, in addition to us and the league being on it, I think the city would have, security that there wouldn't be an issue.
Well, I'm just trying to drive at this, I'm trying to figure out what would be a reasonable
Yeah, I mean-
business proposition for the city. And so I'm figuring this very roughly
Yeah,
here.
I can give you-
I might be off 100,000 one way or the
Yeah, but
other.
I can give you a couple, other tidbits of information. One, $100,000 a year, or we're committing $300,000 a year in the first 10 years of the lease. That is far beyond any of what our current lease arrangements are. They're a small fraction of that. Currently, to lease Joanne's, I think it's $7,700 a year. So.
You must be doing pretty well because you got $1 million to bring to us.
Well, we are in other places, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out a business deal. If I
But,
was gonna lease a property that I own to you.
I understand.
I'd want to figure out what the value of it is.
I think if you do research and look across the league, you'll find that this lease is more aggressively priced than anywhere else in the league, both from an upfront standpoint, but also from an annual lease fee. So, we want to get this project done, hopefully, eventually, and that's why we thought we'd put our best foot forward first. So, I would encourage you to look at some other leases. They're normally not this aggressive from the fee standpoint.
I know we got some real bad leases out at the arena. And they turn into taxpayer giveaways after a while. And, I personally want to see some development in that area. I'm excited about the idea of it. I just want to try to figure out for my own benefit what I think is a reasonable price. That's something we can talk about in closed session or something at a later time. But I mean, I'm just, if your average concession is $3.50 a ticket.
And I mean, I'm pulling that off the top of my head.
Well, I think it sounds low to me, especially if a hot dog is $2.50, so.
Okay.
But maybe, do people bring their own lunches, or, I don't know. But all I'm figuring is that if you have 36 teams.
You're making me hungry. I could use a lunch right now.
Well, I'll buy you lunch.
All right.
But I'm just figuring out I'm looking at what your potential gross revenue is.
And can I,
I'm just roughly figuring here about $1.2 million. Is that somewhere in the ballpark?
sir, a couple things. One, I prefer to,
Okay.
one, we're a private business, but two, I want to have those numbers in front of me. I don't have that right
Well,
now.
if I assume it's that, then I think, well, 100,000 a year is about 10% or a little more than 10%. Is that, is there room for a percentage of your revenue or something like that to do this project? I mean, I want you to make a profit. I want you to be profitable. I want you to be able to pay the bill. But at the same time, I don't want to give anything away unnecessarily either.
We understand that. I can honestly tell you that we're being very aggressive with what we're offering.
I was told a long time ago, anybody that keeps saying, I got to tell you honestly, it means they're not honest.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be insulting because I personally like you.
All right.
I find it refreshing.
If you have a question about my honesty, you can talk to all the different
Well,
cities that we work in.
There's all kinds of deals that aren't necessarily good that people have. And I'm just trying to figure out, what makes them want to do this, and are we getting enough of the action? Because we have to borrow $8 million. There's interest on $8 million that's paid off. And, you say you're bringing $5 million, but that's really in the form of your lease of the place over 20 years, and somebody giving naming rights.
Correct.
Which is not an expense to you or the city. So it's not really you bringing it to the table, other than that you found somebody that's willing to do it. So, hey, I'm not trying to run it down, but what you're bringing to the table and what we gotta bring to the table, I gotta decide if it's equitable for the city. And so those are the things I'm thinking about. So, anyway, please continue.
Yes. My presentation is.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Slade?
My questions on this matter might not really pertain to you so much, Connor.
Okay.
But you brought it up earlier, so maybe you can add some perspective that'll be helpful to me. I am very excited about seeing development happen to that area. As you know, we've got 16 acres that the city owns over there, and we've been sitting on it for a long, long time. And this is going to consume half of the acreage.
Close to it.
And at the end, it's going to be a public-owned facility that doesn't provide any property taxes. What excites me about this project is the potential that it will be the catalyst to get the other 8 acres developed and providing a tax base. And so my question is really, how do I get to the point where I'm confident that launching this project and stepping into this is going to turn those other 8 acres into something? And you mentioned that you've had some experience at other locations where your operations, you believe, have stimulated additional development in the area. To the extent that you can provide that would be very helpful to me. Because that's kind of my key concern here is if I know that this is going to result in the whole 16 acres turning into something that's going to be, good for the city from a tax revenue standpoint, then I get a lot more excited about it. And I think maybe my question is more for the economic development director than perhaps for you. But if there's anything you have to offer on that front, that'd be helpful to me.
And to be clear, we didn't develop the additional
I understand.
development, but
Right.
I can provide, at least one, I think a couple testimonials to you of how, now, keep in mind, it's a little bit of a different scenario in the other facilities. There was an existing facility that were revitalized, but I can provide you some information on that. I do think, your question about the larger economic development impact, we're kind of focused on the stadium, but maybe somebody from the city can answer that.
As I said, I guess that question really is aimed for Kevin.
Yeah.
But
But I will provide you
But
with
if
those.
you could
disclosures.
provide something useful there, that'd be helpful to me.
Can do, for sure.
Thanks, Alderman Slotnick. Just briefly reviewing, looking at the property values in the adjacent neighborhood. We looked at, on the east, the river, the west, going back to Ashland, and the north, Arndt Street, and the south, kind of the old CN Railroad tracks. Kind of those physical boundaries really kind of define that neighborhood and, kind of separated it from the rest of the city, with the infrastructure that's there. It kind of made this pocket of South Broadway. If you look at that pocket alone and look at the property values in there, altogether it's about $14 million in assessed value, just under that. You look at the slip site itself, parcels that we own in there, and then some additional acreage, kind of that strip on Broadway in between the railroad tracks and Broadway. We look at the event center occupying the southern half of the site. We, the city, RDA, has direct control over that northern portion of the slip, about 6-7 acres contiguous there. If we were to move forward with just one residential apartment project, and you look at just something along the lines of 100 units, what we've done with City Deck Landing or Metro, and both of those assessing out somewhere, they're not fully assessed yet because City Deck Landing wasn't done at the close of last year, but with values close to $10-12 million, with just one project of that size residentially, we would double the value of that neighborhood. As far as the confidence of where these things are coming, one, as Connor had mentioned, we do have a commercial entity that is interested, and this is again, before a shovel's even in the ground, that they've approached us wanting to be in that neighborhood, wanting to be part of the project, and looking at the project proposing somewhere around $2 million. And then as far as residential development, we do not have, as many apartments on Broadway as we do on the east side of the river. A recent housing study that the city completed at the end of last year says that right now, as of today, and that's with all the projects online, we could easily absorb another 300 to 400 market rate units. So, in terms of proposing the potential for an additional, let's just say 100 unit complex, I think that's very realistic and feasible. One of the things that I've seen in just looking at the history of this site, and from our office looking at developers who have looked at different projects in the city, is they're unclear about the direction that neighborhood in particular is heading. And I think one of the things that we look at, what we haven't done with it in the past and opportunities for the future, is that by the city investing in a city facility down there with a long-term lease partner, it gives a developer confidence that, okay, the city is putting effort into seeing this area redevelop. And, with that, I feel that this public-private partnership, shows the investment and the direction that the city is headed there, and would be a tipping point for getting some of these other developers who have looked but not moved forward with projects before. Again, I don't want to promise anything that, is not there, but I just, lining up the potential, it's rare that you see, other developments even come forward wanting to be interested in a project before it even happens. But again, when you look at the scope of that neighborhood and, what the potential is there, with just one project, there could be, monumental impact on that area there.
It's commercial,
The development,
yeah, or is it just talking apartments?
so I would look at the the client that's been interested is a commercial development. We would look at the site, as you get further out towards the
Something
waterfront.
other than housing.
Right, it could be, again, looking at the city's objectives, we would want mixed use. And I think when it comes to Broadway, it's a great mix of eclectic uses, offices, and residential, and I think you have the potential to combine those uses down in this area as well. You look at just also the visibility of the site, the access from Mason Street going through. It's an area that, we've kind of seen the core of Broadway between Dousman and Walnut, really come of age in the last 20 years, and now we're starting to see it push further north. As we said, develops in the Titletown district and Larson Green, and push farther south. And that's, just going to kind of continue that path in those areas.
Is there any plans south of the bridge?
At this time, I think this is a little bit before my time. I know that area has been challenged, and a few years ago, discussing the zoning for that area, and you're kind of talking about like the Broadway and 9th Street neighborhood. That's kind of the heart of that neighborhood.
The bridge over to 9th Street.
Correct. Our department doesn't have anything specifically targeted at this time, but I think with this, it leads to, again, focusing on this core neighborhood that I mentioned, kind of those boundaries, but spilling over again as you push Broadway further south. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and this is a longer-term project. As we look at enabling startups and entrepreneurs, that area lends itself a lot to that. Maybe it doesn't seem so on the surface, but you look at the number of little small businesses that are in there when it talks about engine repair and small machines. That's a really great area to do some of that startup industrial entrepreneurialism. And perhaps we haven't pushed as much on that as we could. But again, I think that's a very unique asset for the city that we can offer. The coal piles, some of the industries south of Mason, they're going to be here for the foreseeable future, and I think it's in our best effort to work with what we've got, with a long-term vision, but over the next few years, what are the steps to help things work in that area?
So we're basically looking at that 16 acres that the city owns. To move beyond that either way is probably difficult.
Well, in that neighborhood around there, we control a lot of the property, like I said, right adjacent to it. And even just developing those acreage, if you look at a per acre, a housing project like City Deck Landing or Metro would only take up about an acre, maybe two of that. So, there's definitely room for additional development there. The Badger Sheet Metal Building, which has been for sale for quite some time and abandoned for quite some time as well. They're interested in selling, and that's another potential, kind of large-scale site. But really, you look at some of the fine-grained opportunities. Look at the restaurant that's there, some of the bars that are just right south, and just small vacant parcels, where you have the ability for a small business to come in and either renovate an existing building or build something small. I don't want to say that all of our projects have to be these monumental, large $10 million scale projects. There's also a lot of room, just, these small little investments in there. That portion of Broadway, you do see a few vacant parcels in there and room for opportunity.
Kevin,
Just trying to figure out how it will grow beyond.
This property is within an existing TIF district, right?
Correct. So if you look at that neighborhood that I mentioned, about half of it is in TID 5, which is our downtown overlay, east and west sides of the river. And that has a life on it, I think, about 10, 11 more years. Okay. I'll have to go on it. And the other ones are not. So the RDA sites, the boat slip sites, those are in the TID.
Okay, I guess I'd like to know more detail about that, about the existing TIF district and
Sure.
what properties are or are not within that.
Sure.
If you could provide that, that'd be helpful, because again, I need something that's going to cause me to feel confident that going forward with this is going to launch the rest of the property.
Sure. Just on its surface, the district there does cover basically from the water back to the back side of the Broadway parcels. So the ones in terms of just, the most immediate need for development or the highest potential, those would be in the district. And that would be from Mason Street north.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just both for you, Kevin, and Connor. I think one thing that hasn't been talked about, and going back a little bit, is Joanne's Park. What happens there? You put $100,000 into that. And I think there was some concern about that particular neighborhood, that when the bullfrogs leave, that there might be some issues. I've talked with our parks director and others, and they said that there's a waiting list for potential teams and that to use that facility. Are you saying that right now that you're looking at a new facility, but what about the Is that totally out of the question as far as Joanne's, as far as any future use for that, as far as the bullfrogs are concerned?
Well, if we were to secure this new facility,
Right, of
we would
course, that
move
would change.
there. Couple quick notes on Joanne's. First of all, we play 34 of the 70 games played there a year. So we're only half of the programming right now. We've already had in-depth conversations with the Parks Department, and our commitment to the city and our commitment to the neighborhood is that we won't leave there until we've got a solid long-term plan for that facility to continue to be used. It's a great baseball park. It'll continue to be used for baseball. If we get out of there, frankly, it'll open the door for American Legion, Babe Ruth, and other groups. As you said, that there is a waiting list right now, and our assessment is that field will get used even more frequently if we were to move to a different facility. So it's an asset to that neighborhood, and it will continue to be. It'll continue to be used frequently, if not even more than it is now.
Right.
And our
I'm just
commitment to
wondering-
the neighborhood and the city is that we'll make sure there's a plan to ensure that.
That was my concern about that neighborhood, that detrimentally affecting that neighborhood.
And we'll ensure that it continues to get used and that it's not, in fact, a negative thing.
Okay. That's good.
If anybody from the public wants to speak.
Was there anyone else who wanted to address the committee here tonight? Please just come forward or just give your name for the record.
Should we open it up?
I think, aren't we open right now?
Yes, we are.
Oh, we are?
Yep, you opened it the first thing that
All right.
Leanne Kramer. I just think it's basically a no-brainer to go with this whole development. It's a trickle-down effect.
Could you state her address, please?
Oh, sure. 702 Neville, Green Bay, 54303. That property, like it's been mentioned several times this evening, it's been vacant for years. I'm a member of Trinity Lutheran right over there in that neighborhood. I've been a member of that church like 20 years, and as long as I've been there, that has been vacant, nothing's been in that, and it's been just basically an eyesore. So I'm looking at it as they come in, it gives me that feel of like San Francisco, seeing people out in the river trying to catch the fly balls and everything else. But it also would be a trickle-down effect of improving the neighborhoods of that whole, we've done such a wonderful development on Broadway, cleaning up the act of all the old bars and, the drunks laying on the sidewalk. Why not continue that whole philosophy down in that area, cleaning it up? Some of the money that the Bullfrogs would be willing to give, that $25,000, put it in a contingency fund and let some of these people that don't have the money to improve their property be able to borrow at like 1% or 2% of the money to maybe buy the paint to paint their houses or to side their houses or landscape, because they don't have the money. People are living paycheck to paycheck. That's another alternative. But it would just be this trickle, the more apartments, and, it would just be bringing people into the area. The stadium could be used for, I could vision, some of the WIA baseball tournaments being held there during the early summer before the Bullfrogs start. And look at the money that the girls' basketball is bringing into the city of Green Bay when they come and play at the Resch. It's all added revenue to the city. So that's my thought, and it would be I think it would be like a real waste of money not to take it. So thanks for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to address the committee? Well, you don't have to
Yeah, I'll just briefly say, look, I'm glad that you guys, I spoke out on the council floor, so I don't need to repeat and rehash that, but I'm glad you took it to the finance committee and that we're really vetting it. As far as discernment on a developer, I feel I've got a strong sense of discernment, and I trust in these developers here and their commitment to Green Bay. I trust that we can have a 20-year relationship. I know they're supported by the league, not just their own ownership as well. You know, if there's ever a stumbling block with the 4 teams they own, the entire Northwood League really is behind them as well. So I mean, the ladder continues to go up as far as where the support is at. I know that, you know, a few years back, working with Mr. Royal, we really wanted to try to push for a stadium down there. I wasn't on the council at the time, but had some conversations with him because I was a candidate. And I do see this as a real benefit down there. Now, the big thing is determining where the money comes from. I haven't been a proponent of using $4 million in stadium tax money when there's a lot of other use for it. So, you know, again, that's why I'm glad it kind of came here, because we can kind of determine a mix of grant money, stadium tax money, bonding, and we can try to figure out how we can make it happen. I haven't talked to an alderman that's absolutely dead set against the stadium, but I do think we need to figure out the right way to push it through. So, thank you.
Anyone else from the public that would like to address us? Okay, thanks so much. I think we'll just leave it open because they might have some more questions for Connor.
Okay, if I may, just read Alderman Weary's email to you on this item. He states that I'm still taking questions, comments from the public. I think the upfront money from Big Top should be far more than $1 million. It seems that the majority of the risk is with the city. We also need a full traffic study and firm plan for joining the property so that it does not sit idle. Also, much more detailed plan for the 150 days of events is needed. Also, what are the proposed monthly lease payments on the new stadium? So I just wanted to share that with the committee.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to address any of those concerns that Mr.?
I can do my best. I mean, the monthly lease payments, I mean, it's $300,000 a year for the first 10 years, $100,000 a year for the next 10. Joanne's, we've committed to both the city and the neighborhood that we will not leave Joanne's until there's a use plan in place for that ballpark.
Would you just back up a little bit, because I know you keep, in your handout here, it says $300,000 for the first 10 years. Is that the naming rights money?
No, what we're doing,
You said you got a $100,000 a year lease for 20 years, that's $2 million.
No, I said,
I think you say 300,000 for the.
so our initial, so this is switched. At our last council, we proposed $3 million over the first 10 years and $1 million over the last 10 years. Over the first proposal was $4 million over 20 years. We front-loaded that agreement to make it even more appealing for the city. That's been the one change.
The lease price then is $300,000 for the first 10 years?
Correct.
$100,000 for the last 10 years?
Correct. Years 1 through 10, and then years 11 through
So
20.
you're offering that for your
Correct.
total of $4 million just in lease?
Correct.
Nothing to do with naming rights?
Part of our lease would include naming rights. That's part of what our proposal is.
Spell that out to us.
Pardon me?
Could you spell it out?
I can't spell out the naming rights at this time. If you want
Well,
to.
I'm not talking about who it is or anything.
Yeah, that's not something.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Did your original thing said that your $5 million would include $1 million in upfront investment, $2 million over 20 years in lease payments, and $2 million over 20 years in naming rights?
No, what we've provided
So are you
publicly
offering
is.
naming rights plus now $4 million?
No, the naming rights are
in
part of the $4 million. Part of our proposal is that we would, one of the things we can contribute would be naming rights. And that's part of the $4 million. We've gone and we've secured a naming rights partner that is ready to go if this project were to be approved, and that is part of the overall funding.
Okay, so the total is still $4 million.
Yes, sir.
It's not more now, it's just paid.
$1 million up front, $4 million over 20 years, $3 million in the first 10 years, $1 million over the last 10
That
years.
excludes the naming rights.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I address the other questions, I
The
think I
naming
addressed
rights-
Joanne's.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay, go ahead with that.
He said a full traffic study.
Yeah, we've already been working with Canadian National Railroad to add an additional crossing for pedestrian traffic if this was to come in. And, you know,
Well, I'm
pardon me?
very interested in that. Are they talking to you?
Yes,
Because we can't get them to fix the railroad crossing.
okay.
So what you can do.
That I find intriguing, because, you know, our railroad crossings are like horrible right now in Green Bay. You come across the Walnut Street Bridge, if you go at 25 miles an hour, you're gonna take out your front end practically. But, I don't know, our Director of Public Works says that it's almost impossible to deal with these folks. So I don't know.
I can only speak to the conversations
Are they
we've
gonna
had.
contribute that then? Is that the idea, or?
We've already had that on their radar. So we're working towards, we don't have a full traffic study going. We're working towards adding, if this were to come through, obviously it's all conditional, but if it were to come through to add another crossing to ease pedestrian flow to the stadium. And then as you can see, we've got an initial presentation on our parking plan. I think, obviously, if this were to continue to move forward, we would develop, or we could work to get a traffic plan, a parking plan, and, you know, any additional information that was requested.
Okay. Any more questions from the committee? I think we should encourage Big Top to continue their study of this, and we should probably have a closed session at our next meeting to
You gotta keep the door open, please, Leanne.
Yeah, sorry.
To address your, Alderman Zima, so your ask would be then for a closed session in terms of, you know, negotiating lease payments, or talking about just the structure of the financing that would be involved?
Well, and what the total cost of
Sure.
putting it together is going to be.
Okay.
I mean, when, I guess we can ask questions about what is the actual cost of building the stadium?
Sure, and I
Is it
think.
9 million, and does that include everything that's been talked about?
and I-
Parking lots, railroad crossings, et cetera?
Sure, in terms of defining what exactly going into that facility, I believe the 9 million cost is just for the facility itself and the adjacent parking right on, basically what's going to be built on the south half of the Broadway slip. That does not include any other incidentary improvements, you know, out on Broadway or other things like that. This would just be for the stadium, the parking surrounded it right there.
And well, does it include the accesses to it?
It includes using the existing access way. It does not include anything additional, I believe, in terms of an additional crossing at CN.
Well, I mean, you gotta build sidewalks and streets to get in to the parking lot, et cetera.
True, and I guess to.
Is that all included in the 9 million?
Not all of it. And I think one of the things that we're at a point, and the reason for the letter of intent was to, you know, get a sense from the city what direction we're heading, and that the client is spending hard money to kind of look at these things and wants to get a feel from the city. If the city's interested, that will continue to go on a path of doing that and doing some additional due diligence. And for the city's perspective too, that, you know, for our staff to go down and come up with these numbers and do the research, that, you know, we'd like some direction from the finance committee and from council, that, you know, in terms of moving forward on the project, that this is something that the, you know, finance committee and the council is interested in vetting. And so if that, you know, is the case, I think, you know, talking about some of those additional costs, if there are specific items that you would like, you know, either city staff and or, you know, the client to come forward with to further discuss, I think that would be appropriate. I guess I'll defer to city attorney in terms of closed session language, but if you're talking about business plans or the lease agreements, I think in terms of negotiating those, I think those would be an appropriate venue to do just that. and just, again, respect the private business nature of the client here. I think those would be appropriate to talk about in closed session.
Has our traffic engineer been involved with this project?
To date, no. And one of the things that we would probably do is, again, if we do move forward with this, I mean, we have a tech review team that meets, once a month, where we bring in planning, public works, water, I mean, all the utilities, and just talk about, all right, conceptually, what are some of the issues that may come up once we start moving forward with building and doing these things, to try and iron them out sooner than later. And that would be definitely something that we would slate to do in one of our upcoming
Well, I
meetings.
think we'd like, relatively solid estimates of what the total cost to do the development around the water, the sewer, the streets. What's, like I said, if it was all already included in the 9 million, then, okay, that's where we're at. You say that that has not been calculated yet.
Well, the 9 million projected project cost is for the parcel and for the stadium. That's what has been proposed. So I think we can
But you
work to
don't
get
buck
you.
it down without putting the street into it, or
So there's
sidewalks.
a street into it now. It would include the exterior sidewalks of the parcel. That would be included.
Well, I was hearing something different, so.
But
Yeah, I'm sorry,
I think,
The site is accessible right now. This would include everything. The additional crossing at CN would not be included in those $9 million costs, or additional road up to Arndt Street or Bridge Street where that comes through right now. That is not included. This was just, as proposed, this could be built in, I guess according to all of our zoning codes, in terms of, it could be a fully functional facility at that cost.
And you're confident that we won't be coming back for $1 million or $2 or more later?
From what we've discussed in terms of how they've projected their construction costs, they've estimated very conservatively. From what I've seen through and what they've projected, I've seen it come
Who would
through.
be in control of the construction? Who would be letting the project? The city, right?
Most likely, if it's going to be a city project, then it would
So
be,
the plans would be drawn?
correct. I think we would want to
It
have,
would be bid then?
we would want to have a partner in terms of just helping with some of the specs, but it would be a public process in terms of bidding it out, because it would, at the end of the day, it would be a public facility.
Okay, I'm interested in the traffic engineer and the parking, because, I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Kaloya?
Kaloya?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kaloya said that they were going to, also depend on parking on the streets, if that goes into the neighborhoods, et cetera. Is that something acceptable, or are my constituents going to be saying, we want residential only parking here?
Sure. Or might they be making a buck having somebody park on their lawn?
Well, are we gonna allow that like Packer Stadium?
Yeah.
When money comes
Yep.
involved, then everybody has a different opinion about things.
But, and one of the things that caught us at first in terms of where you look at the site, and I think, kind of brought up a good point. When we have the farmer's market on Wednesday nights on Broadway, getting anywhere from, some estimated as low as 6,000 to as high as 11,000 people on that night, and you close off Broadway itself, we do have, staff step up in terms of our police department helping with some traffic things, but in terms of parking, people make it work. And I think one of the things that we would look at in terms of, talking with the constituents in the neighborhoods, and I think, Connor's looked out, to make partners with businesses so that, you relieve the impact on the residential neighborhoods, and it's confined to, the commercial areas.
It's just that, when the street is blocked off, it does cause problems in other areas. When Ashland Avenue was widened and they took all the trees down, it essentially really hurt the street a lot. It was a Gold Coast at one time. The Fisk homes were there. There were some big, beautiful homes there, but when all the trees came down and the street was widened, et cetera, it was a very big fight. It was actually just prior to my coming out of the council, that there was the agreement was made that in exchange, the very little thing that the people on Ashland Avenue did extract from from the widening of the street, et cetera, the losing of their trees, was that there would be no truck traffic on Ashland. And, you know, when I'm walking around, well, people generally like the farmer's market. They don't like the fact that the trucks are now back on Ashland Avenue because they can't go down Broadway anymore. So I don't know if the street's gonna be parked full on both sides. Now, right now, there's only parking on one side of Broadway in that area just south of where you're talking. I don't know if there's, you know, a bike path. I don't know how wise it is taking the parking off, but there is no parking on the west side of Broadway. So I don't know, if you're depending on all that, then, I mean, do we need to look at more parking so that it doesn't become a burden on the neighborhood? That's why I'm asking if our traffic engineer, and I guess our planners, you know, should be looking at this. I'm very interested in it. I'm interested in what we can do beyond, you know, and I originally asked for money for Broadway, which led to, you know, the renaissance of the street. At this point in time, my original request was to go all the way from Mather to 9th Street. And we've sort of stopped where we are now, and I see this as a chance to build another leg on that idea. And I know Mr. Sladek is referring to the other land that we own there. But I guess I'm looking at what's the potential also, and I'd like your staff to look into it, of going beyond that, south of the bridge and even north of where our site is right now. What potential is there for changing some of the uses in that area? And are there other feasible things? Because, I mean, you don't go too far north, and of course you run into warehousing and really industrial type buildings. So, you know, I have to say, I think they're very courageous to take on this endeavor, and I'm certainly interested in continuing the process. I don't know what kind of motion you want to make here tonight, but
You want to close the floor?
Mr.
I have one more question.
Is there anybody else from the audience that wants to speak?
I'll make a motion to close the floor. Oh, you got a question?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question on this, and it's a staff, so I would, I understand that you had a glimpse of some sort of the estimate, and you think it was conservatively put together, that arrives at a $9 million cost. Who looked at that? I mean, did we have people with construction skills from the city engineering department examine that?
No, it has not been fully vetted by the
Okay.
city.
Could you, as the next step, I'd like to see that happen.
Sure.
I mean, I've been through a bad experience here. Last year, I was told for $4.5 million, I can build an Olympic pool. Now I'm told that's gonna be almost $7 million. I don't wanna go through that again.
Okay.
I'd like to really know that we had good city technical staff examine this, and that it can be done for the money that it's being represented.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, welcome.
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, second to close the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Also, Kevin, it's all these details that we're talking about are important because there's a very mixed review out in the community, and I don't know, you know, there's people that have told me they thought it was a real good idea, but many more did not warm up to it. And of course, we're all political animals here. You have to kind of do what the people want. But that's why it's so important that we get firm numbers, what further development could mean to that area. Because the people have to really understand it and also agree with it. Now, we know that there's some people who will never agree to anything, and there's some people that want everything regardless of cost. But we're looking down the middle. You know, we have to represent our constituents, and of course, you know, I have a larger interest than maybe the other aldermen, because it's a district that I'm alderman of, and it's been basically an undeveloped, neglected area for a long time, so I'm anxious to see some improvement, but it has to also be something that I can rationally bring with accuracy and with, that I don't have to say to be honest or something. I have to say, this is what it is, this is what we feel it will generate, we think it's worthwhile to do it. And, you know, the people have to be able to see what positive things are going to come to them, and it's not just going to be another expense that benefits a small group of people, etc. I don't personally feel that way. I think it has a great potential. But all these details, I think you can't leave the stones unturned. You need to be very positive, you know, very positive in the numbers you bring to us and how we're going to handle, you know, what's really the total cost of it. Are we going to have to change some other streets? Or can we use our street parking as is desired? I mean, I like the idea of that he's going to park in his businesses and use there. You know, I don't know what relationship. I don't know if you you lease the space from those folks. I don't know for parking. And you know, if you could find it without the street, and you know, and can kind of show that within a reasonable tolerances that, hey, you can fulfill the parking without impinging on neighborhood parking, etc. And I want to also hear what you think of the potential of development, you know, west of Broadway there in that same area. What other things you think can be done? I mean, will it spur wanting to buy rather low value properties, maybe to put townhouses up? Something would help clean up the area. I know when I go through Milwaukee, I go through some industrial areas that they've turned into beautiful apartments. And it's the last thing in the world you think, you know, that would really happen there, but once it happens, it is something that is to behold, and it's a positive improvement. So I'm looking beyond that 16 acres. What do you envision could go north, south, and west? And are we going to commit some more money to that area to maybe renovate it, renew it? You know, because we're not talking about taking down any historic houses or anything like that. But you know, a lot of things are just old; they're not historic, and some of them don't have foundations, all kinds of things. But I think we have to know all the positive effects of this, because this has to be shared with the public, and the public has to, in general, feel good about it. So I encourage you to go forward, and please bring us as firm figures as you can. Okay. And so I think what is your motion then, Mr. Slade?
There isn't a motion, but I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to deny. And the reason is, I do not want city money used for this. It's a private business. I mean, if this is so important, it's gonna be a go. I mean, there's other ways you can fund it. I mean, I know you can. A lot of ifs and buts about Joanne's. I mean, you make a lot of statements that'll open up the door for American Legion and Babe Ruth, which are dying in this city, been dying for years. I don't see how you're gonna regenerate Joanne's, and that's what it's there for. So I cannot accept this. I am not gonna be a part of this as long as there's city money involved. So that's my motion, just like I did at the city council.
There's no second to that motion. So I'd like to entertain a motion that we just continue to gather the information, and I'm also interested in a closed session that, you know, would include maybe part of it with the parties involved and part of it without them involved, to look at, you know, what is, if there is going to be a bargain struck, what that bargain should really be. Could I have a motion? to that
Mr.
effect?
Chairman, I would support that motion. I think we need to investigate this further, and there were a number of questions raised tonight and commitments made to come back with the additional information. So I support your motion that we hold this and have further discussion at our next meeting.
You want to put it in a more positive way, that we are definitely interested, and that we want to
I'm not
gather more
ready to add
information.
that language. I want to know more about the questions that we raised.
Kate, you want to repeat your motion then?
I move that we hold this item and revisit it at the next Finance Committee meeting and ask staff and the applicant to come back with answers to the questions that were raised here tonight.
Well, that includes a potential closed session.
I don't know that we're at the point yet where we need to go into closed session, but if you want to provide for the potential,
Just for the
I think
potential.
noticing it as a potential closed session would be fine.
Right, I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. 2-1. Thank you so much for your time here. I know we had to wait for a while and get under the microscope here for a couple hours, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. See you next meeting.
Okay. Item number 12. Request by Alderman Weary, should the Coburn Olympic Pool project come in higher than the original 4.5 million? Well, this commissioner estimate up to 1 million of the excess stadium tax revenue be utilized to fund the overage. Okay.
Alderman Weary is requesting that this be handled on the upcoming meeting in Finance. Parks will be taking up this item next week. I'm still strongly in favor of some of the tax refund money to be used towards Coburn Pool. If you would please hold it until more firm estimates are obtained.
So what are the wishes of Weary?
He wants us to hold it until we get better figures.
Correct.
Okay. Make a motion to hold until we have better figures.
Second.
Okay. Then moving to second that we hold this item until we gather further information. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item number 13 is report by the finance director.
Again, elections, in the election process, yesterday, I believe, was the first day that absentee voting can take place in the clerk's office. Continuing to work in the assessor's office to get our border review notices out. And in finance, we are working on our audit preparation.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Okay, been moved and second to receive the report of the finance director and place on file. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nicholson, seconded by Mr. Sladek to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Yeah.
I'll be in facetious, Andy.
Some things. But if it was over in District 3, I would accept it. But a guy wouldn't.
Imperial Lane.
Yeah, but a guy wouldn't. You wouldn't go for it. I know you wouldn't.
Well,
What a bunch of crap.
Andy,
Hey, American League and Babe Ruth, we're gonna open up the door that's been dying for years, and what do we do with all the parks that all the clubs have put into it? They're all gonna disappear and go right down here? Look around at all the parks in the city of Green Bay, how much money they put into it.
What state they're in. It would be nice to know that.
On the west side that are utilized by, put a lot of money into it.